Welcome to Infinite Novel Audio. Like, subscribe, and enjoy this video. Chapter 51 Really Hu Liena. After Xiao Wu went to the ring, Yin Hao and others stopped staying in the lounge and went to the stage not far away to watch Xiao Wu's game. Just like in the original book, after a few tricks, Qing Bao, who was careless at first, was directly thrown off the stage by Xiao Wu. Then the host directly announced the result of the game. Master Xiao Wu won, with a record of 21 wins and losses. Qing Bao has a record of wins and losses. Master Xiao Wu, please register your points after stepping down. After getting off the soul fighting stage, after completing the uncomplicated point registration, Xiao Wu came to Yin Hao in a bouncing manner. How about brother Hao, am I strong? While stroking her little head, Yin Hao praised her generously. Okay, you are the best. Away. Dai Mubai looked at the well-behaved Xiao Wu, then at Xu Zhuqing, who had a cold face. He couldn't help wondering, why is there such a big gap between this woman and a woman? As Shrek's dean, Flender stepped up to praise Xiao Wu after she won, and the others did the same. After finishing the courtesies with several people, Xiao Wu took Yin Hao's hand and said, "Brother Hao, didn't you buy the bet? Let's get it." Hearing Xiao Wu's words, Dai Mubai and the others remembered that Yin Hao bought 100,000 gold soul coins for Xiao Wu's match. 100,000 gold soul coins. How much money do you have to make right now? Dai Mubai was a little jealous. Ever since he ran to the Tiandu Empire, he had cut off his financial resources. Fortunately, he brought a lot of gold soul coins with him when he left. However, he spent money lavishly. In less than 3 years, the more than 20 gold soul coins he brought out now only have less than left. If you can win some back through the Great Soul Arena, that would be great. Thinking of this, Dai Mubai hastily greeted Yin Hao. Hao, Xiao Wu, wait for me, I'll go too. Hearing this voice, Yin Hao and Xiao Wu also stopped and glanced at Dai Mubai, but they did not refuse. Okay then, let's go together. Xiao Wu asked curiously. Big stupid, Boss Dai, aren't you afraid of losing? Dai Mubai waved his hand. Don't worry, I only buy from our acquaintances, I can't lose. Can't lose, Yin Hao sneered in his heart, this is not necessarily. Although the Great Soul Fighting Arena has regulations that the audience cannot interfere with the battle on the stage, they still have to be able to catch it. Don't forget, Yin Hao's Sharingan now has 2 supernatural powers in his body. He only needs to interfere a little at critical moments, and there will definitely be some accidents on stage. While several people were talking, another round of competition began on the stage. Next, there will be 9 one-on-one soul fights in our 14th soul fighting field number 70, and the 2 soul sects will appear. They are Nana of the Soul Sect, who possesses the Beast Martial Spirit Tianhu, and Huo Jun of the Soul Sect, who possesses the Sword Martial Spirit. Who are they? Let us wait and see. 2 soul sects will be invited to appear. Originally, Yin Hao planned to take Xiao Wu to leave, but before he took 2 steps, he heard Ma Hongjun behind him say something. Oh, this Nana has a good figure, her front is convex and her back is curled up. Although she is wearing a mask, I can guarantee that she is definitely a big beauty. Hearing this, can Yin Hao bear it, immediately looked at the stage with a critical eye. Sure enough, as Ma Hongjun said, the front is convex and the back is upturned, and the clothes that are not tight can't cover the good figure of the woman on the stage, but it's a pity that wearing a mask can't see the face clearly. She has short light brown hair and 2 small furry ears on her head. She is still a fox spirit, just like Hu Liena. Same as Hu Liena, Yin Hao directly stopped and looked towards the stage. Although the people on the stage were wearing a half-face mask, upon closer inspection, they looked more and more like Hu Liena. The woman on the stage seemed to have noticed Yin Hao's gaze, turned her head to look in Yin Hao's direction, happened to meet Yin Hao's gaze, and even winked at Yin Hao playfully. Hu Liena, Yin Hao said to himself. He opened the blue-silver domain just now, and found that he couldn't feel the breath of the woman on the stage at all. Even though he had already seen her, he couldn't feel it with the blue-silver domain. This kind of phenomenon has only happened once when he grew up so big, and that was when he met Hu Liena before. Humph! Xiao Wu snorted unhappily. Xiao Wu, who was walking well, suddenly felt that Yin Hao was not moving, and turned around to find the woman he was in the stands. This made Xiao Wu feel a little jealous. The stinky fox, I hated this creature in the forest. but I didn't expect to meet it in human society. Zyro Wu thought angrily. Yin Hao glanced at Zyro Wu, who was pretending to be very angry and didn't care. This little rabbit can be coaxed with a top-quality crystal radish, so don't worry. What he was wondering now was why Hu Liena appeared here. Seeing that Yin Hao ignored her, Zyro Wu had no choice but to stand there with an unhappy face and looked at him with her resentful eyes, hoping to attract his attention. Dai Mubai also noticed Yin Hao's gaze and patted him on the shoulder, looking like a fellow man. Yin Hao smiled at him and didn't respond, but just spoke. "Let's go." When I came to the place where I bet before, just as the waitress said, less than 50 gold soul coins were exchanged in one go. And when the bald man saw Yin Hao exchanging money, his expression was as if he had eaten a fly in the rice field. "How about Mubai, are you watching?" Yin Hao walked to Dai Mubai and asked with concern. Dai Mubai hesitated for a moment, pointed to a show on the brochure and said, "Look, there's an internal battle between us in Shrek. I think it's better to buy this one." Yin Hao looked where he pointed. It was the battle between Tang San and Zhu Zhuqing. Then he spoke. "Then whoever you are going to sell will win." Dai Mubai spoke directly without the slightest hesitation. "Little San." Although Tang San's spirit power and spirit quality were not as good as Zhu Zhuqing's, he had shown everyone his hidden weapons before. Every move was full of killer moves, and it was hard to guard against. According to Dai Mubai's understanding of Zhu Zhuqing, she felt that she was no match for Tang San. "Then how many gold soul coins are you going to buy?" As Yin Hao spoke, he quietly opened the Sharingan and released a small illusion to Dai Mubai. Since the Sharingan has its own illusion ability, it doesn't even require the mobilization of soul power, so it can't be used. Don't worry about people finding out. Originally, Dai Mubai wanted to say buy gold soul coins first. After all, he still knows that eggs cannot be put in the same basket. This makes sense. But he didn't know why. Suddenly an idea flashed and he spoke. "Since I can make money, of course I can buy as much as I can. I still have about gold soul coins, so I bought them all." Chapter 52 Zhu Zhuqing vs Tang San. When Yin Hao heard that Dai Mubai planned to go all in at once, his face was shocked, and then he said kindly, "Mubai, think carefully. This is all your gold soul coins. Even if you win, you can earn a little 3 times more than 7 gold soul coins. From now on, you can do whatever you want, and you don't have to worry about gold soul coins anymore. It's not a problem to worry about money, and it's not a problem to be able to live without any worries for several years. You don't need to repeat the delicacies every day, and it's enough to support a dozen beautiful girls at the same time. You can do whatever you want them to do, but you still have to think carefully." Hearing Yin Hao's words of advice, Dai Mubai smiled crookedly, waved his hand and spoke. "Don't think about it, I'm all in. No, all in is not enough. I'll go to the Great Spirit Arena to borrow some." After saying that, Dai Mubai ignored Yin Hao's hard dissuasion and resolutely went to borrow money from the organizer of the Soul Fighting Arena. The Great Soul Arena also provides lending services, but the dog system can be compared with it. As for not paying it back, guess why this big spirit fighting arena can be found in all the big cities in the 2 empires, let alone Dai Mubai, a small soul master. Even a titled Douluo would not want to offend the big soul fighting arena. Zyro Wu watched Dai Mubai leave. The back view is still a little dazed. "Boss Dai went to borrow money." Yin Hao nodded. "Hey, I can't help it, I can't persuade him." Then, regardless of what happened to Dai Mubai, he directly spoke to the waiter at the counter. "In the singles competition, no. 80 has 5 games, I will win with Zhu Zhuqing." "Okay, how many gold soul coins do you want to buy?" 21 gold soul coins. The big soul arena will charge a handling fee when someone comes to collect the money after the game. After Yin Hao, Zyro and Dai Mubai came back, Hu Liena's fight would have been over long ago. Seeing Yin Hao coming back, Tang San came forward and said, "Brother Hao, a woman came here to look for trouble before, but you weren't here, so I asked me to give this to you." As he spoke, he handed over an envelope. Yin Hao took the envelope curiously, but he didn't open it in a hurry, but asked, "What kind of woman is she?" Zyro Wu also looked at Tang San vigilantly, hoping to learn from him who was so shameless to seduce her brother Hao. Tang San thought for a while and said, "With a mask, short light brown hair." At this time Ma Hongjun interrupted. "It was that hot woman on stage when Brother Hao left." Yin Hao nodded, "Hu Liana." Then he sat down on his seat, opened the envelope and took out the letter. In the end, in an envelope, 2 letters and a gold card were taken out. This surprised Yin Hao, picked up one of the letters and began to read it. This letter was written by Bibi Dong, roughly meaning that he was entrusted by his father to prepare some gold soul coins for him. The time was relatively short, so he didn't prepare too many, only 800 million. Didn't prepare too much, only 800 million has been prepared. Yin Hao looked at the letter and then at the gold card in his hand. He had worked so hard for 4 years and could not earn even % of it. Others said he was still not prepared for it. Putting down Bibi Dong's letter, he picked up another letter from the ghost. This one was written by Hu Liana, and the beginning of the letter was a lot of nonsense. And it said again, "Did the younger brother miss me?" He asked again, "Are you happy that senior sister came to see you?" Anyway, what is useful is the latter sentence, which is to ask him to go to the Wuhan Hall of Soto City after the competition, and she will wait there. "What are you doing?" Yin Hao gently folded the letter, looked at Zyro Wu, who was stretching his neck to look at his hand, and said indifferently. Zyro Wu smiled awkwardly. "I didn't do anything. I'm afraid, Brother Hao, you are too tired, so I want to rub your shoulders." After saying that, she stretched out her 2 snow-white paws, put them on Yin Hao's shoulders, and started rubbing them. Daimyo Bai not far away saw this scene, then looked at Zhu Zhuking not far away, thought for a while, then stepped forward. "That, Zhuking." Before he finished speaking, Zhu Zhuking stood up and said lightly, "It's time for me to play." After speaking, he was ready to leave. Daimyo Bai clenched his fists, looked angrily at Zhu Zhuking's back, and then returned to his seat. Then Tang San also left behind Zhu Zhuking. After the match on the stage was completed, Tang San and Zhu Zhuking also stepped onto the stage. After a brief introduction by the host, the match between the two officially began. Without saying hello, Tang San's first spirit ring directly lit up. The first soul skill, Entangle. Zhu Zhuking was not polite, dodging the blue-silver grass rising under her feet, using her speed advantage to move forward quickly, trying to close the distance between her and Tang San. However, Tang San would not let her get her wish, and continued to increase his soul power. The blue-silver grass on both sides rose into the sky, half of it attacked Zhu Zhuking, and the other half formed a railing shape, trying to stop Zhu Zhuking. However, he seemed to have overestimated the tenacity of his blue-silver grass. He saw Zhu Zhuking's second soul ring light up, and the Netherworld 100 claws activated. Countless claw marks attacked her, and instantly tore the blue-silver grass to pieces. Then Zhu Zhuking jumped lightly, stepping on the blue-silver grass blocking the soul fighting stage, and jumped up. The first soul ring lit up in midair. The first soul skill, Nether Thrust. Although Tang San said that his character was not good, the combat experience accumulated in his past and present lives was still good. His eyes flashed, and a purple light appeared in his eyes, and he could clearly see the direction of Zhu Zhuking's attack with just one glance. Tang San smiled slightly, and activated the ghost shadow at his feet, intending to dodge her attack and then ambush the blue-silver grass at the place where Zhu Zhuking was about to appear in advance to end the battle. But it's a pity that Yin Hao, who has Sharingan, also saw Tang San's intentions through Tang San's actions, so he directly cheated on Zhu Zhuking. System: get 20% of Tang San's ghost shadow Misong comprehension. Successful collection. At the same time, Tang San, who was planning to activate Ghost Shadow Mistrak, was suddenly in a trance, as if something important had been lost. Although he came back to his senses immediately, this short second was enough time for Zhu Zhuking to come to him from midair. Seeing Zhu Zhuking's sharp claws attack him in front of him despite the cold light, Tang San, who had been very calm just now, was instantly frightened. He hurriedly tried to retreat, but it was already too late. Zhu Zhuking's claws slashed towards his chest from bottom to top. Tang San has no choice but to sideways to hide. Originally, Zhu Zhuking had no intention of hurting Tang San. After all, he was from the same academy. From now on, he would not look down when he looked up. There was no need to create any unnecessary grudges over a game. Therefore, even though Zhu Zhuking's sharp claws were aimed at Tang San's chest, He only intended to subdue Tang San, not hurt him. But when Tang San dodged like this, his body lowered, which made it too late for Zhu Yuqing to stop. His sharp claws slashed across Tang San's ordinary face, leaving a long wound from the corner of the eye to the jaw, but fortunately there was no injury to the eyes. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio. Chapter 53 Confused Tang San. What? Feeling the burning sensation coming from the left side of his face, Tang San let out a cry of pain. He was disfigured. Tang San touched the wound on his face in shock. Although he looked very ordinary, he still wanted to be ashamed. This Zhu Yuqing actually dared to hurt his face. There really is a way to death. Zhu Yuqing was a little embarrassed, hurriedly withdrew his martial spirit, and was about to step forward to have a look at Tang San. There was an uproar in the audience. Most of them bought off-court bets, but now Zhu Yuqing didn't choose to pursue the victory after injuring his opponent, but withdrew his martial soul. What are you doing? Come on. A black match. It's time for you to collect your martial soul. Hit him. Hit him. Hit him. The voices in the audience got louder and louder, but Zhu Yuqing didn't pay attention. He just walked towards Tang San apologetically, wanting to see his wounds, but was stopped by Tang San. Tang San covered the wound on his face and glanced at Zhu Yuqing with a sinister look, but quickly looked away and pretended not to care. It's okay, the game is not over yet, let's continue. Zhu Yuqing didn't notice Tang San's flashing sinister eyes, nodded, and walked back to the other end of the fighting spirit stage. Since you dare to take action against him, Mr. Tang San, you must be prepared for his revenge. Thinking of this, Tang San no longer hesitated. At an angle that Zhu Yuqing couldn't notice, he stretched out his hand in front of the 24 bridges of bright moon night on his waist, and several objects with cold light appeared in his hands. Zhu Yuqing on the other side had no idea about this, and she didn't expect that Tang San would use this against her, so she was unprepared. But Yin Hao, who had been staring at Tang San, did see his little movements clearly, and couldn't help sneering, really. Zhu Yuqing, who had summoned his martial spirit again, signaled to Tang San and then rushed towards Tang San. Tang San first summoned 2 blue-silver grasses to attack Zhu Yuqing as before, but Zhu Yuqing easily dodged them, and she stepped on the blue-silver grass and rushed towards him at a faster speed. Just when Zhu Yuqing was still 7 or 8 meters away from Tang San's first spirit ring lit up, and the first spirit ability entanglement was sent out. 2 strands of blue-silver grass wrapped around Zhu Yuqing, one left and one right, but Zhu Yuqing easily tore them apart. It's now. A gleam of purple light flashed before Tang San's eyes, and 3 silver needles gleaming with cold light appeared in his hand, and then quickly threw them towards Zhu Yuqing with a clever technique. As the owner of a cat-type martial spirit, Zhu Yuqing's reaction is still very fast, if the distance is enough. She can't avoid it. But unfortunately, she was too close to Tang San now, and she didn't expect Tang San to use this move, so she was completely unprepared. Seeing the 3 silver needles coming through the air, 2 in front and 1 behind, Zhu Yuqing could only use her soft body to jump up lightly, narrowly dodging the attack of the 2 silver needles. But the 3rd silver needle came to Zhu Yuqing's eyes immediately. However, Zhu Yuqing had not yet landed and was unable to catch the ball. Seeing that the distance between the silver needle and himself was getting closer and closer, there was nothing he could do. Just when the silver needle was about to hit Zhu Yuqing, Tang San also showed a satisfied smile. He had already applied poison to the silver needle. Although it wasn't a deadly poison, it could also make the person who received the needle quickly become sick in a short time. Feeling weak all over and having an unbearable itching all over his body, this can be regarded as a small punishment for Zhu Yuqing for hurting himself. As for how to explain after going down, The arena is like a battlefield, shouldn't it be unscrupulous? I'm teaching them a lesson, but at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The silver needle that was less than 10 centimeters away from Zhu Yuqing suddenly disappeared strangely, without a sound. This made Tang San dumbfounded. What's going on? Zhu Yuqing was also stunned. The silver needle is gone, but she reacted immediately and rushed towards Tang San quickly. In order to catch Zhu Yuqing off guard before, Tang San deliberately brought the 2 of them closer. Now the distance between the 2 was only 5 meters, and with Zhu Yuqing's speed, he arrived in front of Tang San in just 1 dodge. However, Tang San's reaction was not slow. The master blocked Zhu Yuqing's claw with a crane and dragon capture, and then immediately used Ghost Shadow Mistract to distance the 2 of them. and at the same time, Tang San secretly prepared the silent sleeve arrow in his hand, ready at any time turn around and shoot Zhu Zhuqing with an arrow. But I don't know why, just when Tang San was using Ghost Shadow, it seemed that he was suddenly tripped by a stone under his feet, and his whole body was shocked. How could Zhu Zhuqing let go of such a good opportunity? The first soul ring lit up. The first soul skill, Nether Thrust. It was too late to hide. Tang San hurriedly summoned the blue-silver grass to stand in front of him, but lost the blue-silver emperor bloodline, plus the first 2 spirit rings were only at the 100-year level. In just 1 second, the 3 layers of blue-silver grass in front of Tang San were torn apart, and Zhu Zhuqing caught Tang San in front of him with 1 claw. What? In an instant, Tang San's chest was grabbed by Zhu Zhuqing with 4 bloody marks, but Zhu Zhuqing had no intention of stopping and raised his other hand to continue. Tang San wasn't stupid either. There was no point in continuing to fight in the current situation. It would only make him suffer more injuries, so he hurriedly spoke. I surrender. After hearing these 3 words, Zhu Zhuqing had no choice but to take back his hand that had not yet fallen. After giving him a cold look, he turned around and left the soul fighting stage. In a small corner of the soul fighting stage at the back, 2 silver needles were inserted into the ground. The ground around the silver needles turned slightly black, obviously being quenched with poison. Ma Hongjun and the others must have not noticed it because of their low cultivation level, but Flanders, who possesses the cat-eagle martial spirit, could see it clearly. Flanders frowned and looked at Tang San with some confusion. He didn't expect that Tang San would do this to his classmates. If it weren't for Zhu Zhuqing's tricks, he attributed the sudden disappearance of the silver needle to Zhu Zhuqing's tricks. I am afraid that it will definitely be plotted against. Zyro Gang, how are you teaching your disciples? Flanders frowned and whispered, but didn't express anything. Dai Mubai and others were still in a daze. Because of the distance, they didn't notice the hidden weapon Tang San sent out at all, and they didn't understand why Tang San suddenly gave up. But this didn't stop Dai Mubai from feeling distressed. 90,000 gold soul coins, it's over. The Great Soul Fighting Arena's debt was not easy to deal with, and he didn't dare to, otherwise Flanders wouldn't be able to protect him. Zhu Zhuqing came down from the stage to register the points, while Tang San walked straight back to the place where the Shrek people were waiting. Seeing Dai Mubai with a sad face, Tang San was still a little puzzled. Boss Dai, what's wrong with you? Dai Mubai's face turned even darker when he heard Tang San's voice, and he glanced at him without replying. When Tang San saw the hot face pressed against the cold butt, he stopped talking to him. Chapter 54. Go to the bar in a fit of anger. Mistress, come with me. At this moment, Flender walked up to Tang San and said. Tang San seemed to have expected it, nodded, and followed. Yin Hao on the side walked up to Dai Mubai and patted him on the shoulder. It's okay, if you have no money, tell me, I'll help you. Dai Mubai looked at Yin Hao in confusion. He didn't expect that Yin Hao, whom he had just met for a few days, would say this to him, and he couldn't help but be touched. Random nodded solemnly. When they came to the counter again, the eyes of several old gamblers changed completely when they saw Yin Hao. This kid bought more than 20 yuan every time, and he won every time. This made some people think carefully, and quietly stood not far behind Yin Hao, wanting to see what he bought this time. Yin Hao handed over the ticket for Zhu Zhuqing's win. The waitress at the counter first glanced at the ticket with a smile on her face, then pulled a woman next to her and whispered something in her ear. He nodded and turned to leave. The waitress at the counter, who stayed there, continued to receive Yin Hao. After some operations, another gold soul coin was received, but Zhu Zhuqing's odds were relatively low. After excluding the 5% handling fee of the Great Soul Fighting Arena, this time he only made a little over. Yin Hao picked up the brochure in front of him and flipped through it as before, while the woman who had left before returned to the counter, whispered something in the waitress' ear and left again. Yin Hao glanced at the two of them, and as expected, he was noticed. Immediately, without further hesitation, he put down the booklet and said with a smile, "There are no more interesting games, so I won't buy it yet." After speaking, he turned around and left. This operation completely stunned the waitress standing in front of him. He looked back at a room behind him, and then at Yin Hao, who was leaving. He didn't know what to do for a while. Those people standing behind Yin Hao, originally wanted to eat 2 pieces of meat with Yin Hao. How could they agree when they saw that Yin Hao was about to leave? A strong man put his arm around Yin Hao's neck. "Brother, don't rush to leave, tell brother what you think." The bald man before also came up, stood in front of Yin Hao and said, "Yeah, tell my elder brother, don't worry, it's not difficult for you. Yeah, let's talk. Chat." Several ponyboys around also started to boo. Yin Hao glanced coldly at the strong man next to him, stretched out his hand, and shook off his arm on his shoulder. "Roll." Before the strong man could speak, the bald man in front couldn't hold back. "Boy, do you think you have nothing to worry about because private fights are not allowed in the Great Soul Fighting Arena? Do you believe that something unexpected will happen to you as soon as you leave the Great Soul Fighting Arena?" Yin Hao didn't want to waste time with him, so he opened sharing indirectly and glanced in the direction of the strong man beside him. The strong man was still watching the show with his arms folded. When Yin Hao looked over, he thought he was scared, but before he could speak, he felt a trance. Snapped, the strong man walked up to Yin Hao and slapped the bald man standing in front of him. The bald man was stunned and looked at the strong man with a puzzled expression. "Brother, this is..." Snapped, another slap in the face. The bald man covered his hands and was slapped in the face, his eyes full of grievances. "Go away, don't stop big brother from leaving." As soon as the strong man finished speaking, the pony boys looked at me and I looked at you. All of them were dumbfounded. "Don't let it go." Seeing that everyone did not move, the strong man shouted again. All the ponies didn't dare to hesitate any longer and hurriedly made way for them. Seeing this, Yin Hao left directly, ignoring everyone. Back to the viewing area. Just bumped into Tang San, who had just finished chatting with Flender. At this time, Tang San had a dark face. "This damn Flanders didn't care about the injury on my face, but he dared to teach me a lesson. If it weren't for the fact that you and my teacher are good friends, there is already a way to die." "Little San." Tang San raised his head when he heard the voice, and quickly put back the gloomy look on his face after seeing Yin Hao. "Brother Ha, what are you doing here? Isn't your double match about to start?" Tang San took a look at the number of games, and sure enough he was almost there, so he nodded and quickened his pace and left. Without Yin Hao's intervention, relying on hidden weapons and Dai Mubai as the front block for damage, the two won easily. This also made Dai Mubai even more dissatisfied. "You have such a powerful thing and you can lose to Zhu King, and even cost yourself gold soul coins. Did you do this on purpose?" Apart from them, Ma Hongzhen's single player Zyro Wu and Zhu King's double player also won. But to Flanders' surprise, the two-man team composed of Yin Hao and Enning Rongrong actually defeated the opponent. The Soul Master Duo team achieved victory. This caused his original idea of Ma Hongzhen and Yin Hao to form a team after the two were defeated. But it's always good to win, and Flender praised the two very generously. And when he saw that Yin Hao and Enning Rongrong had won, he said a few words and turned around and left alone. Yin Hao and his party of 7 left the Great Soul Arena, and Ma Hongzhen, who had a wretched face and a pig's head on his head, turned his eyes and said, "You guys go back first. The dean just said to let me go to his shop." Can Dai Mubai, who has been with Ma Hongzhen for so many years, still not understand him? He immediately spoke with a half smile. "Okay, then you can take it easy. Boss Dai, let's go together. What are we pretending to be brothers?" Hearing this, Dai Mubai, who was half smiling at first, panicked for a moment and couldn't help secretly cursing this Ma Hongzhen for not being able to speak, and quietly looked in Zhu King's direction. But he found that she still looked like that. She didn't even mean to look at him at all, as if the two of them had nothing to do with each other. This made Dai Mubai feel angry, and the words that were on his lips to tell Ma Hongzhen to stop talking turned into words. "Go, why don't you go? If you don't go for 2 days, it's really uncomfortable." Zyro Wu looked over curiously. "Boss Dai, what are you going to do?" Before Dai Mubai could reply, Ma Hongzhen took the conversation with a wretched expression. "Of course we went to a good place, but this kind of place, you girls, it's better not to inquire too much." Although Zyro Wu is known as the 10-year-old rogue rabbit, he has just entered human society and does not understand these things yet. However, as a little witch of the generation, Enning Rongrong understood immediately and quickly grabbed Zyro Wu and told her to stop asking. "What are you doing, Rongrong?" Zyro Wu looked a little confused when she saw Enning Rongrong pulling her, but Enning Rongrong immediately spoke. "They said they were going to Gulan, why are you so curious?" "Hook bar, what is a hook bar?" Seeing that Zyro Wu still looked puzzled, Enning Rongrong didn't say any more. Dai Mubai, on the other hand, looked at Zhu Zhuqing while listening to their words. But he was disappointed. Zhu Zhuqing still didn't have any intention of paying attention to him. This made Dai Mubai even more angry. He pulled Ma Hongzhen angrily and prepared to leave. But before he took 2 steps, he touched his pocket and stopped again. He walked up to Yin Hao with a little embarrassment. Chapter 55, Goodbye Juliana. At this time, Zyro Wu was still standing next to Yin Hao, holding his arm and asking, "What is Gulan? What is Gulan for?" Yin Hao's face was full of embarrassment. Zyro Wu stopped talking when she saw Dai Mubai coming over. "That's our house, I think." Dai Mubai didn't know how to speak. What should he say? Want to go to Gulan but have no money. Even if Dai Mubai was thick-skinned, it would be a bit awkward to borrow money to support a woman's success. Seemingly seeing Dai Mubai's embarrassment, Yin Hao patted him on the shoulder and said, "Didn't I say that? We are brothers, you can just speak up if you have anything to do." Dai Mubai gave Yin Hao a moved look and said without hesitation, "I want to borrow some money, it doesn't take much, just a gold soul coin. There are only some ordinary people in the Gulan, and there are no soul masters at all, so even for a high-end and beautiful woman, a gold soul coin is enough." As for Ma Hongzhen, usually looking for a silver soul coin, the taste is so strong that Dai Mubai feels sick even thinking about it. Yin Hao frowned after hearing this. Dai Mubai couldn't help being taken aback. Could it be? 1 gold soul coin is too much, can't it? Didn't he win a lot before? But before he could ask, Yin Hao spoke. "Are you looking down on brothers? Talking about borrowing with brothers, is it a gold soul coin?" Then he took out a small bag from the ring, which was bulging and contained about a dozen gold soul coins, and threw it to Dai Mubai. "It's not a lot of money, you can use it as long as you can. It's a gift from my brother, so you don't have to pay it back." "How?" Dai Mubai took the bag, looked at Yin Hao slightly shocked. "What is a brother? This is called brother." Then he nodded solemnly. "Thank you, brother." After saying that, he turned and left. At the same time, an electronic sound sounded in Yin Hao's mind. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Dai Mubai's soul power level 17 by trading with gold soul coins 1-5. Do you want to receive it? Not yet. After so many years, Yin Hao finally understands what determines how much he gets from this kind of transaction. It's not that the more valuable you give the other person, the more you get, but it's caused by the other person's emotional fluctuations. And this also explained why so many years of trading with Tang San got very little, because this old Yin Bi was too scheming. On the surface he was very grateful, but in his heart he didn't feel anything. Without the conflict between Zhu Zhuqing and Dai Mubai, there would naturally be no conflict between Dai Mubai and Enning Rongrong. "I have something to do, so I'll leave first. You guys go back to the academy first." After Dai Mubai and Ma Hongzhen left, Yin Hao also spoke. Hearing Yin Hao's words, Enning Rongrong looked at him in shock. "Are you going to that kind of place too?" As soon as Enning Rongrong said a word, Zhu Zhuqing and Tang San also cast their gazes one after another. Only Zyro Wu was still wondering where the Gulan was. "What kind of place? I'm going to do something." Enning Rongrong nodded quickly, but the words "I don't believe it" were still written on his face. Yin Hao was helpless and turned around to leave without any explanation. It was Zhu Zhuqing who spoke at this time. "I believe you." Yin Hao turned his head slightly surprised, then nodded to her with a smile and left straight away. The location of the Wuhanzi Temple in Suochuo City is also in the center of the city, so it is easy to find. It didn't take Yin Hao long to arrive at the entrance of Wuhan Hall. A guard wearing a black robe stopped Yin Hao. "Stop, no one else is allowed to enter the place of the Spirit Hall." When he was in Notting City, the 2 doormen at the door were just ordinary people, but for the guard in front of him, Yin Hao could clearly feel the fluctuations of soul power in his body. Yin Hao didn't talk nonsense, and took out the holy child order that Bibi Dong had given him before in the ring. I am the holy son of the Wuhan Temple. I need to go in for important matters. I had long heard that His Majesty the Pope had decreed the creation of a holy son more than half a year ago, but the information about the holy son had not been announced. Unexpectedly, he would appear in front of me today. The guard took one look at the holy son order placed in front of him. He had no doubts and hurriedly saluted. I have met His Royal Highness the Holy Sun. Holy Sun, please. Yin Hao nodded, then lifted his foot into the Wuhanzi Hall. As the Wuhan Child Palace, which is a higher level than the Wuhan Branch Palace, it is stronger than the Wuhan Branch Palace in Notting City in terms of architectural style and scale. Walking into the huge sub-hall, except for the small sound of the small fountain used for decoration, the entire palace was eerily quiet. At this moment, Yin Hao suddenly felt a cold wind coming from behind him. Without any hesitation, he hurriedly hid to the side. Then he stretched out his right hand and summoned a 1-meter-long blue-silver grass ice spike to block the cold wind behind him. Attack. Seeing that he missed a hit, the visitor immediately withdrew his attacking hand, and using his left foot as a support point, he threw a roundabout kick. However, Yin Hao summoned him to the blue-silver grass and clamped his legs directly, and then stabbed the man's chest with an ice thorn. Alas, junior brother, you are too much. Is there anyone who treats your senior sister like this? Hu Liena looked at the ice spike that was only centimeters away from her pride and couldn't help shouting loudly. Yin Hao rolled his eyes at her, waved his hand, and took the spirit back. Without the restraint of the blue-silver grass, Hu Liena's controlled legs were also released successfully. How is it, junior brother, do you miss senior sister? Hu Liena smiled enthusiastically at Yin Hao, as if it wasn't her who attacked Yin Hao just now. Yin Hao glanced at her angrily. Think, then how can you not want to? In the end, didn't you still want to fight with me as soon as you came up? Hu Liena directly ignored the second half of the sentence, and said with a smile on her face. Then do you miss your senior sister more, or do you miss your teacher more? Yin Hao directly refused to accept her tricks, looked at her with a half smile and said, Of course, whoever gave me more, I think whoever gave me more. The teacher just gave me 800 million gold soul coins as a gift. I don't know what gift the senior sister prepared for me. It can't be compared, is the teacher too different? Hearing this, Hu Liena's smile immediately froze on her face. That was 800 million gold soul coins. When Hu Liena first heard the news, she was shocked for a long time. In the end, with a wave of his hand, Yin Hao gave them all, and his big apprentice didn't get a single one, so he was so jealous that he went crazy. However, Hu Liena reacted immediately, stretched out her hand to brush her hair. Just a small movement showed her charming look. Then he came close to Yin Hao, stretched out his finger and pointed it on Yin Hao's chest, sliding it slowly. Senior sister can't show the teacher's handwriting. Why don't you talk about it, and it would be better for senior sister to give you something. While speaking, he also looked at Yin Hao temptingly. The goblin Yin Hao cursed secretly in his heart. Chapter 56 Thoughts. The goblin Yin Hao cursed secretly in his heart. But he's not afraid of these things. No matter what, he won't suffer, so why bother? He stepped forward and hugged Hu Liena's slender waist, lying down and whispering in her ear. As long as it's a gift from senior sister, I like it. Feeling the heat wave coming from her ears and the touch coming from her lower back, Hu Liena was stunned. She just wanted to tease this little junior brother, but she didn't expect that he would really dare to take advantage of her. Hu Liena immediately wanted to push Yin Hao away, but Yin Hao would not let her go so easily. If you want to tease me, tease me. If you want to push me away, push me away. Don't I want to lose face? Then I applied a little more force to make Hu Liena stick closer to her. What are you going to do, senior sister? You just said you missed me, but now you want to push junior brother away. Isn't it a bit too heartless? May. Hu Liena was momentarily rendered speechless by Yin Hao. A blush appeared on her alluring face. Although Hu Liena's martial spirit is a fox, and her talent is also a charm skill, she is still very conservative. Except for her brother, when has she ever been hugged by another man like this? I didn't know what to say for a moment. However, Yin Hao didn't give her a chance to speak at all. He held her head with his other hand, put his head on her shoulder, and whispered into her red ears. Didn't senior sister ask junior brother what he wants? Let me tell you now, I want you. Yin Hao's hot breath hit Juliana's small and white ears, itching. Now Juliana couldn't bear it any longer. She even used her soul power and pushed Yin Hao away. Her whole body was like a ripe red apple, charming and charming. Yin Hao, who was pushed away, was not annoyed. He just looked at Juliana and pretended to be puzzled and said, "What's the matter, senior sister? Why don't you agree? If you don't agree, why bother to be rough?" He still wants to go forward. Juliana was so frightened that she quickly took 2 steps back and distanced herself from Yin Hao. Don't, junior brother, senior sister is wrong. Can't senior sister be wrong? I shouldn't tease you, I don't dare anymore. After hearing this, Yin Hao nodded with satisfaction. Boy, can't I cure you? Random stopped messing around with her, straightened his expression, and spoke. What's the matter with that card? Why did the teacher ask you to give me this thing? Juliana found a seat, sat down directly, and then said sourly, "Who knows, the teacher went back to his room after you left, and I don't know the rest." Yin Hao nodded. If he doesn't know, he doesn't know. Correct. Juliana suddenly screamed. I remember the teacher seemed to have taken out another black box. She still has the black box. Yin Hao looked at Juliana and said, "What's in there?" Juliana shook her head. I don't know, but the teacher sent someone to prepare gold soul coins the next day. It may have something to do with that box. Is that so? Yin Hao stayed in Wuhandian for an hour and then left. Before leaving, Juliana also told him that if he needed help, he could go to the Wuhandian in any city with the order of the Son of God. The canonization of the Holy Son was passed on, but Yin Hao's identity was not revealed for some reason. After leaving the Wuhan temple, Yin Hao walked alone on the road in Suichu City, full of thoughts. It is another black box. Each black box is related to itself, and it is also related to its own secret. Whether it is sharing or the system needs gold soul coins, Yin Hao can be sure of this. Absolutely no one else knows. Then, who gave Bibi Dong that black box? My cheap father. Yin Hao raised his head. There are only 2 possibilities. The first one, my cheap father is not dead, and he gave me my system, including sharing, so he can know his secrets so well. However, there is one thing that is not easy to explain about this possibility. That is, the blue hair and Susanoo. This is the gossip that the little fox Juliana told herself. After all, his family knew about his family affairs, and his own hair was black. It turned blue after he traded to obtain Tang San's blue-silver emperor bloodline, so this was not easy to explain. As for the second type, that is that person, his cheap father is actually himself, but his future self. But if this is the case, how did he go back to the past? System, does he still have that function? The host, please don't question the professionalism of the system. Then do you have the function to let me go back in time? The host has no right to interfere. Then let me ask another question. Is there any item in the system mal that allows me to go back to the past? This, not. Then you'd better get out. As the system fell into dead silence, Yin Hao stopped thinking wildly. Who can say for sure what will happen in the future? Let's take one step at a time. Come out. Yin Hao suddenly called out to the side of the road. Then Zyro Wu got out from behind the tree with an embarrassing expression, and Enning Rongrong with an embarrassing expression was accompanying her. If you don't go back to the academy, what are you doing here? Zyro Wu scratched her head embarrassingly. Her eyes started to gossip. She thought for a while before she said with a smile, Am I worried about you? Enning Rongrong on the side was speechless when he saw this. I don't even believe your lies. You said it would be great if we came to go shopping. Worried about me, tell the truth. Seeing Yin Hao's serious expression, Zyro Wu suddenly panicked. Enning Rongrong was about to speak, but before she could say anything, Zyro Wu snatched her away. It's Rongrong. Rongrong said you went to Gulan to play. I asked her what is Gulan, and she told me that it's a place where you do that kind of thing. I said you wouldn't, and then you and Rongrong planned to come to me together. Zyro Wu nodded and looked at Yin Hao with an aggrieved look. Yin Hao couldn't help feeling a little funny. This rabbit really couldn't lie in front of him, and he told her all after scaring her a little. Enning Rongrong, who was standing next to Zyro Wu, wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl in. Who is this person? If you sell your teammates, just sell your teammates. Why did you explode your own crystal? but Yin Hao didn't embarrass her too much and said, "Okay, now that I've finished reading, let's go back. It is good." After saying that, Zyro Wu immediately abandoned Enning Rongrong and ran to Yin Hao's side. Just now, her grievances were completely gone. She hugged Yin Hao's arm with a smile on her face and pressed her face against it. Enning Rongrong was left standing alone in the same place, messy in the wind. She seemed a little unable to keep up with Zyro Wu's brain. Chapter 57, Looking for the Eye of Ice and Fire. Another morning. After the meal, everyone gathered on the playground again. After everyone had gathered for a long time, Oscar came leisurely. There is still a set of rhetoric in the original book, after everyone ate Oscar's sausage. Flender announced that Zhao Wukai would lead the crowd to the Stardew Forest to obtain a soul ring for Oscar, who had just reached level 30. "Dane, I may not be able to go." Just after Flanders made the announcement, but before the disbandment was announced, Yin Hao stepped forward and said. Everyone's eyes were attracted by Yin Hao, and Flender also looked at Yin Hao with some puzzlement. "What's wrong? Were you injured during the spirit fight yesterday?" Yin Hao shook his head. "That's not true, it's just that I just received a letter from my family. My grandfather is sick, it seems to be very serious. I need to go back, I'm afraid I'll be late." While talking, Yin Hao lowered his head slightly, looking very lonely. How can there be any family letter? Yin Hao has already grasped things like making up nonsense, and opened his mouth to send a good wish to old Jack. However, after a series of incidents that did not conform to the original, Yin Hao also felt a little uneasy. People are afraid of the unknown, and Yin Hao is no exception. Apart from the system, the biggest reliance for him is his familiarity with the original work, and he can have a foresight about everything. But now there are a series of things that do not conform to the original work, which also makes Yin Hao aware of the crisis, and the best way to deal with the crisis is naturally to strengthen himself. Therefore, Yin Hao planned to take Nihuang to extend friendly consolation to Douluo. As for whether you can beat it, Yin Hao didn't have the slightest concern about this. You're calling yourself a titled Douluo floor tile for nothing, huh? Hearing Yin Hao's words, Flender was also stunned. Birth, old age, sickness and death are the inevitable path for human beings. He couldn't persuade Yin Hao about this, but he would not stop Yin Hao from going back to see his grandfather for the last time. "Old Jack, thank you, thief's son." Then Flender nodded and said, "Okay, I'll give you a leave of absence. You want to take a little time." Then he patted Yin Hao on the shoulder and left. After he left, everyone in Shrek surrounded him to persuade him. It took Yin Hao a lot of saliva to dismiss them. Zyro Wu still wanted to go with Yin Hao, but Yin Hao refused because he focused on cultivation. And Tang San also came forward and said a lot of words of comfort to Yin Hao, but didn't mention anything about going back to see him, even though old Jack had taken great care of him in the past few years. Yin Hao sneered in his heart, but on the surface he remained calm, cooperating with Tang San, pretending to be very moved. Half an hour later, after dealing with everyone, Yin Hao walked out of Shrek alone and went home. On the carriage, Nihuang sat opposite Yin Hao. There was no one here, so Yin Hao called out Nihuang directly. "Brother Hao, how do you know that Poison Douluo is hiding in the Sunset Forest?" As soon as Yin Hao got out of Shrek, he dragged her and told her to go to Sunset Forest. Nihuang was still very confused. "It's not that she doesn't know about Sunset Forest. Isn't it just an ordinary forest of soul beasts? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio." As a result, Yin Hao opened his mouth and said that the poisonous Douluo Douluo lived in seclusion in the Sunset Forest, and the place where he lived in seclusion was still a treasured land of geomantic omen. This made Nihuang very strange. Nihuang knew that Douluo was once hunted down by Wuhan Palace and then rescued by Prince Yuxing of the Tiandu Empire. However, after being rescued, Douluo no longer existed in Tiandu City. "Wait, what are you doing in the Sunset Forest?" Yin Hao smiled and said. "Of course I have my own method." Seeing Yin Hao's reluctance to speak, Nihuang didn't ask any more questions, but continued to speak. "Then if a fight breaks out, stay away. Although I'm not afraid of that guy, his martial spirit is indeed one of the best poison-type martial arts. If you get involved, I won't be able to save you." "Don't worry, Sister Nihuang, I have my own method. and we used to win him over in the past. It's better not to do anything unless it is absolutely necessary. At this time, it is the turn of the cheating system to play again. In the system Mal, 1 million gold soul coins for 100 poisonous pills, and 100,000 pills, 100-hour experience model, can completely guarantee Yin Hao it will not be easily destroyed by Douluo Bo's poison attribute group attack skills. Nihuang glanced at Yin Hao and didn't know what to say. There were so many titled Douluo in Wuhan Palace, how could he not know the importance of a group of titled Douluo with attack attribute? If he could be lured into the Wuhan Palace, how could the Wuhan Palace choose to pursue him? Although I don't know what Yin Hao wants to do, he is the son of God after all. Although he calls himself a sister, he can't always talk ironically to him. If there is really any danger, at worst she can take Yin Hao and leave first. She doesn't believe that Douluo Bo dares to chase after him. The carriage traveled for 2.5 days, and finally arrived near Tiandu City when it was getting dark. The Sunset Forest was only a few miles away from Tiandu City, so the two of them were not in a hurry. First they found a place to live, and after lunch at noon the next day, the two set off for Sunset Forest. Although the Sunset Forest is not as boundless as the Stardew Great Forest, its scale is not small. Even Yin Hao, who has Sharingan, cannot see the end at a glance. In addition, when searching on the ground, you have to pay attention to avoid trees, and there are also some blind soul beast attacks, so Yin Hao directly suggested to Nihuang to fly to the sky to look for it. Nihuang naturally would not refuse. With a shock of soul power, a pair of wings with red flames spread out behind her instantly. The burning flames were like fiery red feathers, full of domineering power. Brother Hao, catch it, sister will take you to heaven. Oh. Yin Hao hugged Nihuang's weak and boneless waist, and nodded. With the mobilization of the soul power on Nihuang's body, the wings behind her suddenly spread and fell down instantly. In just 1 second, the reaction force from the wings made the two of them leave the ground instantly. Flying in the sky of the setting sun forest, without the interference of the spirit beasts on the ground, Yin Hao also began to unscrupulously expand the search range of the blue-silver domain. Seeing Yin Hao's serious face, Nihuang was not in a hurry and started to fly around with Yin Hao. At this moment, Yin Hao, who was hugging Nihuang's slender waist, suddenly raised his head. Whether it was intentional or unintentional, the moment his forehead was raised, his forehead brushed against Nihuang's huge pride, causing a wave of fluctuation. But neither of them cared about this little thing. Sister Nihuang, about 4 kilometers southeast, let's go and have a look. Oh. Without saying any unnecessary nonsense, the wings behind Nihuang trembled again, leading Yin Hao to fly to the place he just said. Chapter 58. With Nihuang's speed, it's only 4 kilometers in the blink of an eye. Looking at a large area surrounded by poisonous gas below, a smile appeared on Yin Hao's face. However, caution is the first priority in everything. Out of caution, and also out of consideration for his own life, Yin Hao let Nihuang lead him around the venue for a few times. After Nihuang repeatedly confirmed that there was no one inside, Yin Hao let Nihuang bring him down. According to the detection function of the blue-silver domain, Yin Hao quickly found the location of the valley where the eye of Binghuo Liangyi was located. Then he hugged Nihuang's slender waist again and let her fly down with him. At the bottom of the valley, a strange hot spring appeared in front of them. The area of the hot spring is not large, but it is divided into 2 parts. In the oval-shaped pool, the colors of the hot spring water are milky white and vermilion respectively. What's even more strange is that although they are in the same pool, they are clearly separated, they do not invade each other, and they always stay on their own side. Nihuang seemed to be shocked by the hot spring in front of her. Don't look at her youth. It's just that her appearance naturally became younger after she reached the title Douluo. In fact, she is old enough to be Yin Hao's grandmother. But even though she has lived for so many years, she has hardly seen anything like this strange hot spring in front of her. Nihuang looked at Yin Hao at the side, but saw a smile on his face, staring intently at the strange hot spring not far away. Brother Hao, do you know this place? Yin Hao did not deny, nodded and said, This is what I told you before, the treasure land that Douluo Bo found in the Sunset Forest. This spring is called Binghuo Liangyi, and it is a unique treasure land. Ordinary plants can't grow here at all, because ordinary plants can't adapt to that special climate, but this is the place where all rare plants are derived. Yin Hao leaned towards the Binghuo Liangyi eye while talking, and Nihwang hurriedly followed after seeing this. Extraordinary Velvet Tongshan Chrysanthemum, 8-petal Immortal Orchid, Fragrant Kiluo Immortal Product, Acacia Heartbroken Red. Strange flowers and plants appeared in front of Yin Hao's eyes, and the smile on Yin Hao's face became brighter and brighter. Nihwang, on the other hand, stood aside and watched Yin Hao staring at a pile of flowers and plants for which he didn't know what to do, and giggled. Yin Hao took out the jade box that he had already prepared, and according to the knowledge he had obtained from Tang San's trading about the fairy grass picking techniques, he picked each fairy grass carefully and put them into the jade box, and then put them into the jade box. Put each jade box into your ring. After busying for half an hour, he finally finished picking more than a dozen celestial grade herbs, dozens of 9th grade and 8th grade herbs, except the star anise black ice grass and the raging fire apricot. However, Yin Hao did not uproot these fairy grasses. I believe that within a few years, these fairy herbs will grow again. Then Yin Hao looked at the spring that had become an open space, and then at the ring on his finger. Then he thought in the original book, Tang San gave Dai Mubai and the others the fairy grass and made them feel grateful. The emotional fluctuations in this are definitely not small, and the things obtained in the exchange are based on emotional fluctuations, not the value of the items. It is impossible for the immortal herb to be given to Dai Mubai and those guys, but if it is just a fake immortal herb that looks like the immortal herb. System, it's your turn again. Tell me, is there any substitute in the mal that looks and smells the same as the fairy herbal medicine, but the effect is far different? The following items have been found for the host according to the host's requirements. Odd Velvet Tongshan Chrysanthemum, pseudo. It looks and smells the same as the real Odd Velvet Tongshan Chrysanthemum. Effect, the user's soul power will increase in a large amount, and the soul power level will increase, but the real combat power will decrease, the potential will decrease, and the subsequent practice speed will decrease, and even the effect of regressing in the subsequent practice. Other side effects are unknown and vary from person to person. Different price. Golden Soul Coin 508 Petal Fairy Orchid, pseudo. Coxcomb Phoenix Sunflower, pseudo. The corner of Yin Hao's mouth curled into a smile. 500 gold soul coins. Zyrosen, Zyrobai, don't say that brother doesn't help you, Jai Jai Jai. Nihwang looked dumbfounded. It's over, it couldn't be this broken hot spring that made Yin Hao stupid, right? He is the holy sun conferred by the Pope himself. If something goes wrong in my hands, don't go back to Wuhandian, get ready to run away. As if he had noticed Nihwang's gaze, Yin Hao put away his smile, then took out a jade box from the ring and opened it. A huge chrysanthemum appeared in front of the two of them. It was the Kaiying Tongshan chrysanthemum. Sister Nihwang, with your cultivation, it's okay to remember the breath and appearance of this flower, right? Nihwang nodded. Afterwards, Yin Hao took out the strange velvet Babel chrysanthemum, false, from the system store, held it in his hand and said, Sister Nihwang, can you feel the difference between the breath of the flower on my left and the flower on my right? Nihwang didn't dare to be negligent, and quickly mobilized her soul power to feel the breath of Yin Hao's left and right hands. Half a minute later, Nihwang withdrew her soul power, shook her head and said, I can't feel any difference in the breath of these two flowers. In my perception, the breath of the two flowers is exactly the same. Yin Hao nodded in satisfaction. Even titled Douluo couldn't feel any difference, let alone Tang San and the others. Taking back the two velvet Babel chrysanthemums, Yin Hao looked at Nihwang again. Sister Nihwang, I need to practice here later. You can help me watch from the side. If Dugubo comes back, try to support him first, and try not to do anything if you can. Nihwang Douluo nodded, and then stepped aside. Yin Hao didn't look at Nihwang again, but walked to the spring of Binghuo Lingyian, looked at the two fairy grasses growing on both sides, and took a deep breath. System, if something happens to me, can you save me? Host, rest assured, with the host's current gold soul coins, even if black and white impermanents come to the host, this system will allow them to plow 2 acres of land before leaving. Hearing this sentence, Yin Hao felt relieved. He said that the system is dark and flawed, but it is still quite useful when needed. Immediately, without hesitation, he summoned 2 blue-silver emperor vines to hook the 2 fairy grasses growing on both sides of the ice and fire. Then quickly cut it off and threw it into Yin Hao's hands. Yin Hao didn't hesitate, and directly put 2 celestial grasses into his body, 1 cold and 1 hot, 1 ice and 1 fire. 2 diametrically opposed forces erupted in Yin Hao's body instantly. In a few seconds, Yin Hao's whole body turned blue, with chills on his body like an ice sculpture, and after a few more seconds the blue color faded, and Yin Hao's whole body turned red again like a steaming bird. Cooked prawns. Chapter 59: The Arrival of Douluo. As the two forces collided and fought against each other in Yin Hao's body, Yin Hao's whole body turned blue and red, changing erratically. This scared Nihong not far away, but she didn't know what Yin Hao was doing and couldn't help. She could only silently pray that he was safe, otherwise she would really set off to wander. Feeling the alternation of the two forces in his body, Yin Hao no longer hesitated, and jumped towards the place where the springs of two colors, one blue and one red, joined. Having entered the spring water, two completely opposite spring waters on both sides, one hot and one cold, were surging crazily towards the outsider Yin Hao. However, cold and heat resist each other, and ice and fire resist each other. Although all kinds of Yin Hao's body occupy half of Yin Hao's body, they all stop here. At this time, Yin Hao only felt that the left half of his body was like falling into an ice cave, extremely cold, but the right half of his body was like entering a volcano, unbearably hot. The coldness and heat tortured Yin Hao's nerves, forcing Yin Hao to tighten his muscles. He gritted his teeth to try to alleviate the pain a little bit. However, Yin Hao did not have the hobby of self-abuse. He immediately called the system when he felt the pain from his body. "System, give me a bottle of painkillers." A bottle of 50 gold soul coins refused to bargain. "I'll go, you guys sit on the ground and raise the price." Yin Hao's back teeth were almost broken, blue veins popped up on his forehead, and big beads of sweat dripped down like free money. This system has always been honest in doing business, whatever the price is. Yin Hao didn't want to waste any time with it now, so he quickly spoke. 50 is 50, I bought it, give it to me quickly." Successful purchase. As the 50 gold soul coins disappeared from Yin Hao's property books, a bottle of painkillers in white packaging appeared in Yin Hao's hands. Without any hesitation, Yin Hao quickly opened it, took out one and put it into his mouth. The small pill melts in the mouth, and in just a few seconds, the body that was in severe pain before can no longer feel any pain. Yin Hao breathed a sigh of relief, and began to transfer his soul power, using the power of the ice and fire Yangyi Eye to refine the two immortal grasses, Star Anise Xuanbing Grass and Raging Fire Xingjigoshu. At this time, a green figure in the setting sun forest was running towards this side. It was Douluo. However, his current condition is not very good. His soul power is leaking out unconsciously, and the flowers and plants contaminated by his soul power wither in an instant. Putting his right hand on his chest, his whole body's soul power circulated rapidly, seeming to be suppressing something in his body. Damn it, how could these toxins explode at this time? We still have to go back to the spring. While cursing secretly, Douluo accelerated his pace and moved towards the eye of Binghuo Lying at a faster speed. At the same time, Nihong, who was standing not far from the Eye of Ice and Fire, was waiting anxiously. However, this hot spring was really strange. With her titled Douluo strength, she was unable to see clearly through the mist emitted by the hot spring. This also resulted in her not knowing Yin Hao's condition inside. At this moment, Nihong suddenly turned around and looked in the direction they came from. "Who?" Douluo, who had just come down from the cliff, was also shocked. How could there be other people in his place? Apart from his granddaughter Douguyan, no one else should know about it. After all, even Prince Snowstar didn't know that he had such a treasured geomantic land in the Sunset Forest. But now is not the time to think about this. Douluo quickly took off his right hand from his chest. He changed his hurried look and put one hand behind his back to pretend to be calm. "Who is it?" "It turns out to be Nihong Douluo from Wuhan Palace. I wonder what advice Nihong Douluo can give when he comes to my little medicine garden." Seeing that it was Douluo who came back, Nihong remembered what Yin Hao said before, so she spoke. "I can't talk about advice, it's just that my son came to see Mr. Douluo for something, and please don't refuse Mr. Douluo." "Son." As early as half a year ago, Bibi Dong had passed on the news that the Holy Son of the Spirit Hall would be established. Of course, Douluo also knew about it, but due to the intentional concealment of the Spirit Hall, the major forces still had little knowledge of this Holy Son, in a blank state. But Douluo doesn't want to see any bullshit Holy Son now, nor does he want to have any contact with him. Now he just wanted to send away the woman in front of him, and the Holy Son in her mouth as soon as possible. and then use the spring water in front of him to suppress the toxins in his body. I've heard for a long time that the Hall of Spirits has established a holy sun, but unfortunately, the old man still has important things to do today, so the holy sun will come back another day. Nihwang was not in a hurry. Anyway, Yin Hao's words were just to hold off Douluo Bo as much as possible, so he continued. Mr. Douluo should tell the Holy Sun himself. Shu Nihwang can't agree on behalf of the Holy Sun. Seeing that Nihwang refused to leave, Douluo Bo's teeth were almost broken, but he did not dare to use his soul power. He was afraid that Nihwang would see that he was not in the right state and have murderous intentions. Then Barbie would beg for help. Douluo Bo didn't dare to act rashly for fear of being seen to be in a bad state, and Nihwang's purpose was to drag Douluo Bo away. Since he didn't move, Nihwang naturally wouldn't make any unnecessary moves. However, although Douluo Bo was calm on the surface, he was getting more and more anxious in his heart. The toxins in his body were still erupting. Now he could still rely on his huge soul power to suppress it, but as the toxins exploded more and more intensely, he could not. It is getting more and more difficult to suppress. If you spend another hour or two with Nihwang, then you don't need others to do anything. You have to finish the game yourself. But fortunately, he didn't have to wait any longer. With the sound of splashing water, a human object came out of the thick mist on the spring water. But this person seems like he has no clothes on. Of course, Yin Hao also noticed this, and quickly used the blue-silver grass to summon a wall as a cover. Then put on the clothes from the ring behind the wall. Then he came out from behind. His Royal Highness. Nihwang quickly saluted. In private, she could call Yin Hao brother, or she could accept Yin Hao calling her sister, but when outsiders were present, the due etiquette was still indispensable. Yin Hao nodded and walked forward with a folding fan he didn't know where to find in his hand. Douluo Bo was also stunned. Just now he was wondering where the holy sun Nihwang was talking about was, but he didn't expect that the holy sun was actually bathing in a hot spring. Douluo Bo has lived near this hot spring for so many years, and he knows the power of the hot spring very clearly, not to mention that the soul power of the holy sun in front of him does not fluctuate beyond the 30 or 40 levels. Even he is a level 91 titled Douluo. I dare not say that I can come out intact after entering the spring water. Yin Hao also noticed the green-haired old man not far away, so he smiled and said, "Is this senior poison Douluo? Young Yin Hao I have met senior." Chapter 60. Douluo Bo had fought against the Wuhan Palace for many years, and was hunted down by the Wuhan Palace many times and almost fell, so naturally he would not have any good looks towards Yin Hao. His Royal Highness the Holy Sun should be spared. I can't bear it. If His Highness the Holy Sun has nothing to do, please leave first. I don't welcome people from Wuhan Palace here. Hearing Douluo Bo's words, Yin Hao was not annoyed, but before he could speak, Nihwang leaned close to Yin Hao's ear and whispered, "Brother Hao, Douluo Bo doesn't seem to be in the right state right now. He seems to be suppressing something with his soul power." Hearing Nihwang's words, Yin Hao raised a smile. As a time traveler, of course he knew what was going on, so he spoke directly. "Senior Douluo, your current state seems not quite right." Hearing this, Douluo Bo's eyes turned cold, and he looked in Yin Hao's direction. His cold eyes seemed to indicate that he would make a move in the next moment. However, Nihwang at the side was not polite. Her soul power was shaken. She took half a step forward, staring straight at Douluo Bo. It seemed that as long as he wanted to make a move, Nihwang would immediately make a move. Seeing this, Douluo Bo had no choice but to withdraw his eyes silently, not to mention that there are still toxins in his body that are backlashing back. Even if he is in full strength, he is by no means an opponent of Nihwang. Yin Hao stretched out his hand to stop Nihwang. "Sister Nihwang, please step back first." "Yes, Your Highness son." Hearing this, Nihwang took a look at Douluo Bo and backed away. Yin Hao stepped forward slowly, talking while walking. "Senior Douluo's state reminds me of a kind of poison. This kind of poison is different from other toxins. It explodes from the inside of the human body. In other words, a poison attribute soul master can't control more and more toxins in his body, and the state of being backlashed." Hearing this, Douluo Bo's heart was filled with turmoil. This was a secret passed down from generation to generation by their Bilin ancestors. How could outsiders know? But although he was surprised in his heart, he remained calm on the surface. Ha ha ha, His Royal Highness the Holy Sun really knows how to joke. How can this old man be poisoned by his own poison? "Is that so?" Yin Hao nodded, walked back to Nihuang, and continued. That's right, Senior is a poisoned Douluo after all. He is an expert in controlling poison. How could he be poisoned by his own poison? Then Yin Hao changed his mind and said, but the symptom I mentioned, every time it's cloudy and rainy, will there be numbness on the ribs, and it will gradually intensify. It happens once at noon and midnight, and it should last for more than an hour each time. Also, every night, around the middle of the night, there will be needle-like stinging pains on the top of the head and soles of the feet, the whole body convulsed for at least half an hour. And the most important thing is that it will be passed on from generation to generation. If there is no effective method, I am afraid that generations will have to endure that pain. Hearing this, Douluo couldn't bear it no matter how much he pretended, and his huge soul power exploded instantly, hitting Yin Hao like a huge wave of soul power. But Nihuang, who was standing beside Yin Hao, couldn't let him make a move, and then snorted coldly. A burst of soul power bigger than Douluo's instantly blocked the huge wave of soul power from Douluo. Yin Hao stood next to Nihuang, holding a folding fan and fanning it gently. His long blue hair behind him was fluttering back in the wind. He looked at Douluo with a faint smile on his lips, as if he was laughing at him. Senior, why are you so excited? Could it be that I was told the truth? Douluo didn't reply, but just looked at Yin Hao, who was not far away, with an expression of resentment, but there was nothing he could do. Yin Hao continued to speak leisurely. Senior, don't be excited. Since I can describe this symptom, there is naturally a solution. Do you have a solution? The resentment on Douluo's face disappeared instantly, and instead a look of excitement appeared on his face. Now he has nothing to do with Yin Hao, but is suppressed by Nihuang, who is next to Yin Hao, so he doesn't think Yin Hao has any need to lie to himself. Moreover, he was able to accurately describe his symptoms, which made Douluo more trustworthy. Yin Hao nodded and then spoke. But before that, Senior Douluo should take care of his own situation first. Douluo glanced at Yin Hao and Nihuang hesitantly, but still nodded. Just when he mobilized his soul power, the toxins counterattacked again. If he didn't take care of himself, he would be buried directly. Besides, since the Holy Sun in front of him knew his situation, he must also know that as long as he delayed himself for a while, he would even take action. It's no longer needed. Douluo slowly walked to the side of Binghuo lying Ian, while carefully guarding Nihuang. However, Nihuang didn't seem to have any intention of attacking him, so Douluo didn't hesitate anymore and sat down quickly, using the unique conditions of the ice and fire yin to suppress the toxin. Half an hour later, Douluo opened his eyes, let out a mouthful of turbid air, and finally suppressed the toxin again. After standing up, Douluo realized that all the flowers and plants that were originally dense were now only an open space. There was no doubt that these flowers and plants must have been picked by the Holy Sun of Wuhan Palace in front of him. Cole. Douluo took 2 deep breaths. He had to lower his head under the eaves. Then he walked slowly towards Yin Hao. Seeing this, Nihuang quickly reached out to stop him and protected Yin Hao behind her. Okay, Sister Nihuang, don't be so careful. I believe that Senior Douluo will not do anything irrational, right, Senior Douluo? Hearing this, Douluo nodded. But His Royal Highness son. Nihuang wanted to say something else, but was interrupted by Yin Hao raising his hand, so she had no choice but to obey Yin Hao's words and retreat to the position behind him. Yin Hao pointed to the seat made of blue silver emperor in front and said, Senior Douluo, please sit down. Afterwards, he ignored Douluo and sat in another seat on his own. Douluo didn't say much and sat down with Yin Hao. His Royal Highness the Holy Sun, you said before that you have a way to solve the martial arts problems of our Bilin family. Is that true? Yin Hao smiled. Of course I won't do this kind of thing to deceive Senior, but the relationship between Senior and my Wuhan Palace, I can't be an enemy, can I? Yin Hao's words were almost clear, and Douluo was not stupid, so he naturally knew Yin Hao's purpose. He thought about catching the Holy Sun of Wuhan Palace now, but he gave up after thinking about it for a moment. Not to mention that Nihuang was still watching him very vigilantly, and whether the Holy Sun of Wuhan Palace could be intact. He walked out of the hot spring so quickly that he didn't dare to enter the hot spring. I'm afraid there is no way to save his life. Chapter 61 Douluo's Allegiance. Besides, I am different now from when I was young. When I was young, I was alone, and it was enough to face Wuhan Palace. But now, I still have my granddaughter Yanyan in Tiandu City. Yin Hao appeared calm on the surface, but he was actually preparing for Du Gubo's sudden attack. After all, he was a titled Douluo. Yin Hao had never thought about fighting him, but he had the bug skill of Shenwei. In a short time, there is nothing you can do about it. After all, not everyone has 6,000 billion detonating symbols. Fortunately, Du Gubo didn't intend to make trouble, and sat not far from Yin Hao's body, neither speaking nor leaving, as if he was thinking about something. Seeing that Du Gubo didn't speak, Yin Hao was not in a hurry, but leisurely played with the folding fan in his hand. After a long time, Du Gubo suddenly raised his head and looked at Yin Hao. Nihuang on the side quickly looked at him with a warning look, but Du Gubo had no intention of taking action. His Royal Highness the Holy Sun, when I was young, I did not know what to say, but I did do some wrong things. I hope Your Highness the Holy Sun will not care about it. For the continuation of his family, and for his precious granddaughter, Du Gubo, who has always been arrogant and has a changeable personality, also bowed his head. But I still have a granddaughter. It doesn't matter what happens to me. I just hope that His Highness the Holy Sun can take action to solve the drawbacks of the martial spirit in my granddaughter Yanyan. If possible, Du Gubo is willing to be loyal to His Highness the Holy Sun. Yin Hao put away his folding fan and looked at Du Gubo with a smile. Senior Dugu's granddaughter, if I remember correctly, is called Du Guyan, right? Du Gubo nodded and then spoke again. As long as His Highness the Holy Sun can cure my granddaughter, Du Gubo is willing to be loyal to His Highness the Holy Sun. It is good. Yin Hao put away his folding fan, stood up, and said to Du Gubo, Since Senior Dugu has said so, I will naturally not refuse to agree. Du Gubo was overjoyed and quickly stood up and said, I'm going to bring Yanyan here. Hey, wait. Just as Du Gubo was about to leave, Yin Hao stopped him with words. Du Gubo looked at Yin Hao with some puzzlement, only to see Yin Hao talking unhurriedly. Before treating Miss Du Guyan, I'd better treat Senior Dugu first. Du Gubo was about to say that he was not in a hurry and would treat his granddaughter first, but he didn't say anything yet. I saw Yin Hao took out 2 small boxes. One contained a small dark brown round pill, and the other jade box contained a strange lotus flower. He knew that lotus flower. It was one of the many herbs in his medicine garden. Although he didn't know what effect it had, he still recognized its appearance. Yin Hao didn't hide anything, picked up the box containing the pills in his left hand, and spoke directly. This thing is called Jiugong Judu powder, and it has the function of turning poison into oneself. As long as Senior takes it, he can refine all the uncontrollable toxins accumulated in the body for his own use. Not only can he no longer worry about the problem of backlash of toxins, it can also greatly increase the soul power. But Yin Hao paused for a moment, then continued. Although this medicine has miraculous effects, it needs to be taken once every 3 months. Otherwise, the toxins will run rampant and the soul will lose control. At that time, no one can save him. Du Gubo was stunned for a moment and looked at Yin Hao coldly. If Yin Hao uses this method to save Yanyan, then he would rather not do it. Then Yin Hao put down his left hand, picked up the jade box in his right hand and said, But you don't have to worry about Senior Dugu. I have another thing here. It's called Dragon Blood 9 Returns Lotus. It is a supreme fairy herbal medicine. As long as Senior or Senior's granddaughter takes it, it can not only solve the disadvantages of martial spirits, but also improve the health of the spirit. The soul power has greatly increased, and even the martial soul has evolved, but the fairy product is good, but there is only one plant. As for who it will be used for, I ask Senior Dugu to decide for himself. Du Gubo is not stupid. On the contrary, he is very smart. Although Yin Hao asked him to make a choice on the surface, if he refused to take the pill, I am afraid he would not give the lotus to himself. And if he dares to lie to himself, then he will make him pay the price. Thinking of this, Du Gubo said directly, Please, Holy Sun, give me the pill. Yin Hao was not surprised, and directly handed the box containing Jiugong Judu powder to Du Gubo. Without any hesitation, Du Gubo directly put the pill into his mouth. Jiugong Judu powder melted in the mouth, and instantly turned into a wisp of essence that was absorbed by Du Gubo. Du Gubo hurriedly sat cross-legged, mobilizing his soul power to deal with the changes in his body. Just as Yin Hao said, the essence transformed from Jiugong Judu powder split into several parts as soon as it entered Du Gubo's body. Douluo could clearly feel that the accumulated and uncontrolled toxins in his body were quickly being destroyed by these essences. The Kai is destroyed, thus transforming into very pure poison-type soul power. Crack! Douluo's soul power suddenly shook, and the level of soul power that had troubled him for decades broke through because of a small pill. A smile appeared on Douluo's face, not only because of the joy of his soul power breakthrough, but also because what Yin Hao said should be true only. Douluo glanced at the jade box in Yin Hao's hand. He had kept the magic medicine empty for decades, but he didn't know how to save himself. What a joke. Then Douluo stood up and bowed solemnly to Yin Hao. Douluo met His Royal Highness, and thank His Royal Highness for giving me the medicine. Senior Douluo is free, so I will give this plant of fairy grass to Senior. Isn't this originally mine? Douluo muttered something secretly in his heart, but when the words came to his lips, he still changed his mind. Thank you, Your Royal Highness. Then Yin Hao gave him some instructions, and told him that he didn't need to go to Wuhan City now, just pretend that nothing had happened and continue to be his aide to Prince Snowstar. And if you meet him again in the future, just pretend that you don't know him, let alone mention him to anyone. If there is anything, Yin Hao said that he will be informed secretly, but it is better not to reveal the relationship between the two of them unless it is absolutely necessary. After finishing the matter, Yin Hao was in a good mood and directly suggested to Nihong to visit Tiandu City. I thought Nihong was not very interested, but I didn't expect Nihong to agree directly. I have to say that no matter what cultivation level or status, women seem to be unable to resist the charm of shopping. Especially Nihong has been secretly protecting Yin Hao almost every day for more than half a year. You have to hurry up. In this way, the two have been strolling around from around 2 o'clock in the afternoon until the evening. If Yin Hao hadn't pulled Nihong away on the grounds of eating, she might have continued to stroll. Chapter 62 The Martial Soul Evolved Nihong. After eating, Yin Hao and Nihong returned to the high-end hotel where they lived before. The two lived in a suite. Yin Hao lived in the master bedroom, and Nihong lived in the second bedroom. Yin Hao breathed a sigh of relief when he entered the room and put down the things he had bought in the past half-day. If he suggested going shopping with Nihong again in the future, he would be a fool. Sister Nihong, let me give you a gift. Yin Hao sat on the sofa and looked at Nihong and said, For more than half a year, Nihong has been trying her best to protect herself and has done many inconvenient things for herself, so Yin Hao still has a good impression of her. What gift? Nihong looked at Yin Hao on the sofa curiously. Afterwards, Yin Hao took out a jade box from the ring and said, Sister Nihong, if I remember correctly, your martial soul is Hu Luan, right? Nihong nodded, walked to the sofa next to Yin Hao, sat down, but glanced at the jade box from time to time. Of course she knew about this jade box. She was present when Yin Hao's jade box contained fairy grass, so she naturally knew what was inside. But what makes her curious is, although this little grass and flower looks a bit strange, does it really have the effect that Yin Hao said? Yin Hao didn't talk nonsense and opened the jade box on the table. A touch of red shone in the box, and in an instant, the temperature in the room seemed to rise. Nihong's eyes were attracted, and she looked inside the jade box, only to see a red trembling, soft and crisp herb placed in the box. The top of the grass blade was like a coxcomb, but if you look carefully, you can find the only difference is that the leaf veins are red gold. This thing is called coxcomb phoenix sunflower. It cannot be chewed or swallowed. No matter how painful it is, you must endure it when you gather your soul power to guide it, otherwise your success will fall short. However, the effect of this item is also very significant, especially for soul masters with firebird martial souls. It is a rare treasure. Not only can the soul power be greatly increased by taking it, but the martial soul will also evolve. Then Yin Hao looked at Nihong and continued. Sister Nihong, after you take it, your Fire Luan martial soul might evolve into a real fire phoenix. Nihong was also very surprised when he heard it. This little grass can make my martial soul evolve into a real fire phoenix. Yin Hao nodded, took out his folding fan again, and said with a half smile. It's not necessarily impossible to do it. With Ma Hongzhen's grass chicken martial soul, eating a phoenix sunflower with a coxcomb can evolve into a real phoenix martial soul. There's no reason why Nihong can't. Hearing Yin Hao's answer, Nihong reached out and took the jade box. It was the phoenix martial soul. Although his Huluan martial spirit is good, Ding Potion is also a branch of Phoenix, which is barely half a Phoenix, but if he can become a real Phoenix martial soul then. A smile gradually appeared on Nihong's face, and after taking a look at Yin Hao, he took out the Coxcomb Phoenix Sunflower from the jade box and sat cross-legged. Guide. It was okay at first, but the moment the energy of Coxcomb Phoenix Sunflower entered Nihong's body, a hot burning sensation spread inside her body, causing Nihong to frown. As the burning sensation became stronger and stronger, tiny beads of sweat began to appear on Nihong's clean forehead, which became denser and thicker, and then bean-sized beads of sweat fell down drop by drop. Nihong gritted her silver teeth tightly, and Liu Mei unconsciously frowned as if she was enduring much pain. Yin Hao just sat and watched, and didn't intend to step forward to help, mainly because he couldn't help much. I don't know how long it took, but Nihong's brows began to relax, and she turned to reveal a comfortable smile. Yin Hao thought that she was almost finished absorbing it. But suddenly, a trace of flame appeared on Nihong's wrist, followed by his calves, shoulders, chest, etc. More and more flames appeared like a prairie fire, covering Nihong in an instant. Yin Hao was startled, and hurried forward to check, but found that Nihong didn't seem to have any pain on his face. But at this moment, more and more flames burned up in an instant as if they had been discussed, enveloping Nihong in raging flames. Yin Hao had quick hands and eyes, and hurriedly used the blue-silver emperor to separate Nihong from the sofa. Otherwise, with Nihong's current state, he might be able to light up the entire room. With the ice power of the blue-silver emperor cutting off the flames, the sofa was saved, but the clothes on Nihong were not so lucky. In just one breath, the expensive clothes on her body disappeared in a puff of blue smoke. It was gone, leaving only Nihong sitting there naked. As a gentleman, Yin Hao would take advantage of others' danger, quickly turned his face away. This wall is so white. This sofa is so big. Looking at the situation of Nihong again, the martial spirit has automatically possessed itself, and a red Luan Wying struggled in the flames, seeming to scream, seeming to mourn. Pieces of feathers and flesh were burned by the fire on Nihong's body, again and again. New feathers and flesh grow, and the aura gradually becomes stronger with the renewal of flesh and blood. Phoenix Nirvana. Yin Hao whispered to himself. Raider, didn't you say you don't want to read it? Yin Hao, can't I care about her? Unknowingly, half an hour passed, and the aura on Nihong's body slowly subsided, and the flames on her body were also extinguished. When the last ray of flames was extinguished, she had a body like a mandarin duck, wings like a rock, and legs like a bird. The crane, the big bird with colorful flames on its tail, uttered a long silent cry to the sky, and then disappeared. At this moment, Nihong, who had been keeping her eyes closed, opened her eyes, and a smile appeared on her face. It was obvious that she also felt the changes that had taken place in her body. Then he jumped off the seat that Yin Hao had made out of blue-silver emperor, and came to Yin Hao in a flash, wrapped his hands around Yin Hao's neck, and gave him a big hug. Yin Hao, referee, she hit someone with the ball, she hit someone with the ball. Thank you, brother Hao. Yin Hao also smiled and hugged her back. Why are you being polite to me? But, Sister Nihong, do you need to put on your clothes first? Nihong let go of Yin Hao and looked herself up and down. After the changes in her martial soul, she seemed to have grown up again. Yin Hao quickly looked away. He was afraid that his nosebleed would flow out after watching too much. Nihong didn't seem to care. Instead, when she saw Yin Hao taking the initiative to turn his face away, he let out a burst of laughter like a silver bell, seeming to be teasing him. After that, he didn't care whether Yin Hao could see it, let alone whether he would peek, and sat directly on the sofa opposite Yin Hao, took out his clothes, and put them on like no one else. Chapter 63. Brother Hao didn't want to do something strange, did he? The two have been playing in Tiandu City for 3 days. Originally, Yin Hao wanted to see if he could meet Suking, also known as Kaian Rengsu, but it was a pity that he did not. How can you keep running on the street when you have nothing to do? And Yin Hao himself, after going through the ice and fire alchemy, used the 2 fairy grasses, Wangchu and Kirshualu, an 8-petal immortal orchid. Originally, Yin Hao planned to use the Kaiang Tongshan chrysanthemum, but after he used up Wangchu and Kirshualu, he obviously felt that a lot of medicinal power had accumulated in his body, and the Kaiang Tongshan chrysanthemum was too strong, so Yin Hao had no choice but to retreat. Secondly, I chose the 8-petal fairy orchid with mild medicinal properties. It is worth mentioning that, with the blessing of 4 celestial grasses, there is no need to say much about the soul power, not only pushing Yin Hao to level 40 abruptly, but also a lot of medicinal power left in his body, waiting to be absorbed again after absorbing the soul ring. Break out. And after taking Wangchun Qiushuelu, the pupil power of Yin Hao's sharing in Wuhan has also improved a lot. At least he doesn't have to worry about the problem of blindness, and Yin Hao has a hunch that at most 2 kaleidoscopes can be fused together, and it will be enough. Evolves into Eternal Eye. And the external soul bone obtained before, that is, the ice dragon armor that Yin Hao almost forgot, also absorbed a lot of medicinal power, evolved, and became a blue armor that could really cover the whole body. 2 days later, Nihuang stood in front of a dark green tree with a strange and even scary appearance, looking ahead anxiously. And directly in front of her was Yin Hao, who was sitting cross-legged. At this time, Yin Hao's eyes were closed, and there was still a circle of dark soul rings around him. There was no doubt that this soul ring must have been more than 10,000 years old. At the beginning, when Yin Hao said that he wanted to absorb a 10,000-year spirit ring to make his 4th spirit ring, Nihuang was firmly against it. After all, only the 5th spirit ring could absorb a 10,000-year spirit ring. It's not that there are no pretentious fools who go beyond the time limit to absorb the spirit ring, but the best end among these people is that the spirit ring collapses and is mentally damaged, and there are countless people who died on the spot because they couldn't bear the power of the spirit ring. However, under Yin Hao's repeated insistence, the most important thing is that he said that with the blessing of the fairy grass, the age of the soul ring is not a problem, so Nihuang can only agree. In the end, the two wandered around the sunset forest for 2 days, and finally found a 1-year-old demon-eyed demon tree, and Yin Hao immediately decided that it was it. Another half an hour passed, and Yin Hao's frowning brows gradually relaxed, and the black soul ring gradually stabilized and was absorbed into Yin Hao's body. Cole! Yin Hao opened his eyes, exhaled a foul breath, and officially announced the perfect end of the soul ring absorption. Nihuang also laughed when she saw this scene. After getting along for such a long time, Yin Hao also called her sister for such a long time. Of course she also has feelings for Yin Hao, not to mention that just a few days ago, Yin Hao he gave her an extremely precious celestial herb, which not only allowed her to evolve her martial soul, but also raised her soul power from level 92 to level 93. It is not an exaggeration to say that she is indebted to her. And the medicinal power of the fairy grass that had not been absorbed before broke out completely after Yin Hao absorbed the soul ring and pushed Yin Hao to level 46 all the way. Go up a level or 2. Seeing that Yin Hao had successfully absorbed the soul ring, Nihuang came forward with a smile on his face. Brother Hao, tell sister quickly, what is your 4th soul skill? Seeing Nihuang, who was more anxious than himself, Yin Hao didn't hesitate and directly summoned the blue-silver Emperor Martial Soul, and then the 4 purple, and black soul rings appeared, and then the 4th soul ring lit up. The 4th soul skill, blue-silver clone. With the mobilization of soul power, a person exactly like Yin Hao appeared in front of them. And no matter in appearance, demeanor, or even small expressions, they are exactly the same as Yin Hao. This avatar of mine has 80% of my strength. He can use almost all my skills. As long as he still has soul power in his body, he can continue to exist. The most important thing is that he can absorb soul power on his own without me. Continue to send him soul power to maintain. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio. But the only fly in the ointment is that with my current strength, I can only create 1 clone like this. If there are more, I will be greatly affected. Nihuang gave Yin Hao a slightly shocked look, then walked up to the blue and silver clone and squeezed the face of Yin Hao. Hereafter referred to as Secret Yin Hao, whose face was pinched, frowned, and waved off the jade hand that was making trouble on his face. Sister Nihuang, what are you doing? It hurts. Nihuang was stunned for a moment, looked at Yin Hao who was standing behind her, and then at the clone Yin Hao who just knocked off her hand. With her strength, she didn't realize the difference between the clone in front of her and Yin Hao's body for a while. The difference. Yin Hao smiled and then waved his hand again. Yin Hao's avatar changed immediately. The avatar with blue hair, which was exactly the same as Yin Hao, gradually became shorter, with the front and buttocks bulging, and the curves on his body gradually became softer, and then turned into the appearance of Nihuang. Who are you? How dare you pretend to be this elder? As a clear female voice pierced through the mouth of the avatar Nihuang, the real Nihuang standing in front of her was stunned. Brother Hao, you are so amazing. Yin Hao smiled, but before he could speak again, his defense was broken by Nihuang's words. But why did Brother Hao make the clone into a sister? Could it be that he wanted to do something strange? In fact, Brother Hao doesn't need to do this. Sister can do it herself. While speaking, Nihuang bit her fiery red lower lip with her white teeth, with an embarrassed look on her face. Can you imagine a Yuji making such an expression in front of you? Doesn't this test veteran carders? Yin Hao hurriedly recalled the avatar, then coughed twice and said, "Ahem, that Sister Nihuang, let's go back first." Seeing Yin Hao's appearance, Nihuang laughed like a silver bell. Back in Tiandu City, Yin Hao bought a carriage for 50 gold soul coins with a big wave of his hand, and then he didn't need the driver, and drove the carriage slowly by himself. When you want to go, you and Nihuang will sit in the carriage and walk a little bit. When you don't want to go, you will stop and find a small town to play, or pitch a tent to hunt 2 wild game, and have a meal outdoors barbecue. It's a joy to travel all the way to the mountains and play in the water. It was night again. Nihuang sat by the fire and looked at Yin Hao, who was sitting in front of her, turning the grill, and constantly sprinkled some seasonings on it, and asked a little puzzled, "Brother Hao, why are we walking so slowly?" When they came, the two of them drove the carriage to Tiandu City from Soto City for only 2.5 days. Now it has been almost 3 days, and the two of them have just walked less than half of the journey. Yin Hao said casually while turning his ears, "Could it be that I want to take my sister to have a good time, and my sister is not happy?" Hearing Yin Hao's words, Nihuang quickly shook her head, but she still felt that Yin Hao was doing something unknown, but Yin Hao didn't want to talk about it, so she naturally wouldn't ask any more. Chapter 64 Shrek Attacked. In fact, Nihuang thought well, and Yin Hao did have his own reasons. Calculating the time, Yu Xiaogang should have arrived at Shrek, and when he obtained the blue-silver clone, he came up with a brilliant plan. Therefore, while his main body was taking Nihuang to enjoy the mountains and rivers, and slowly rushing back, he also asked his clone to speed up and rush back to Soto City, intending to give a small gift to Yu Xiaogang and Tang San. Gift. At the same time, beside a carriage in Soto City, a fat middle-aged man was standing in front of a black-haired young man with a smile on his face. "Young master, the journey from Heaven-Du City to Soto City takes 4 days, and there are 3 silver soul coins in total." The young man touched it casually, took out a gold soul coin and threw it to the man. "Keep the change, please." The middle-aged man hurriedly caught it, followed by a burst of gratitude. The young man was none other than Yin Hao's blue-silver clone, but his appearance was changed by Yin Hao. Yin Hao, the avatar, walked towards Shrek according to the path he remembered, and after a while, he saw the familiar small village again. Yin Hao, the avatar, took out the grimace mask he prepared earlier and put it on his face. Although the appearance has changed, you have to act like you are doing things and be rigorous. Arriving at the entrance of Shrek Academy, it was still the familiar little broken sign and the ugly pattern. Just after entering Shrek's gate, Li Yusong just walked out of it. After seeing the clone Yin Hao wearing a grimace mask, he was obviously taken aback. Shrek Academy, no one else is allowed to enter. The clone Yin Hao paid no attention to him and walked forward on his own. Li Yusong was also not very good-tempered, so he quickly walked forward to grab Yin Hao, his clone. "Boys use, I'll go." Li Yusong stepped forward, just about to grab the clone Yin Hao's shoulders, but he didn't expect the whole person to rush to nothing. To be precise, the person in front of me disappeared. Li Yusong's whole body was agitated, and he quickly summoned the Martial Spirit Dragon Pattern Stick. At the same time, 6 white, yellow, purple, and black spirit rings appeared around him. He swept around again, only to find that Yin Hao, who had just disappeared, appeared in front of him again, in the distance and still walking forward. "Boy, don't act like a fool. This is Shrek Academy, not a place for you to act wild. If you have sense, leave now." But Yin Hao didn't intend to talk to him. He didn't have much dislike for these teachers of Shrek, and he didn't want to fight with them, mainly because he couldn't fight, but it was really impossible for them to hurt him. Li Yusong frowned. To be honest, he was a little panicked now. He was startled by the instant disappearance of the hand in front of him just now, but he still mustered up his courage and continued to stop Yin Hao, but he didn't dare to make a move easily. Yin Hao raised the corners of his mouth and smiled slightly. "Divine power." As the person in front of him shouted, something strange happened again. The first time he didn't see the other person's method clearly. He could barely explain it as he was unprepared. However, this time Li Yusong used % of his concentration and his eyesight. Although he stared at the black-haired young man in front of him without blinking, he disappeared all of a sudden, which had to make Li Yusong feel afraid. I have to say that in Douluo with fantasy floor tiles, divine power is indeed an unsolvable skill. After all, there is no such thing as space here, let alone the power of space. Li Yusong hurriedly turned around, only to find that the black-haired young man who had just disappeared appeared behind him again. Li Yusong panicked and hastily clasped his fists together and bowed to his clone, Yin Hao. "Senior, I don't know Taishan with my eyes. I offend you so much. I hope Senior will forgive me." Although Yin Hao couldn't even beat Li Yusong, the weakest teacher in Shrek Academy, in a fight, but this didn't prevent him from pretending to be an XI. Saw Yin Hao waved his hands, pretending to be an outsider. "There's nothing to forgive, I'm not that stingy." Li Yusong breathed a sigh of relief instantly. He couldn't even see the figure of this person in front of him. If he really wanted to argue with him, wouldn't he be finished? But even so, he did not dare to neglect and continued. "Then I don't know why seniors come to my Shrek Academy." Yin Hao, the avatar, was also not polite and said directly, "There is a teacher named Yu Zairogang in your college, right? I have some issues with him, so if I ask him to come out, I won't be embarrassed." Yu Zairogang, the master who came 2 days ago, Li Yusong was originally a little dissatisfied with this great soul master, who was not very powerful but still yelled at the academy every day. If Flanders hadn't protected him, he would have thrown him out of Shrek long ago. Now that it has brought such a trouble to the academy, Li Yusong's resentment towards Yu Zairogang can't help but intensify. "Since Senior is here to find him, please wait a moment, Senior. I will go find him right away." Oh. After getting permission from his clone Yin Hao, Li Yusong turned around and walked towards the playground with an unhappy face. At this time, Yu Zairogang was still arranging for Tang San to fight with everyone. He planned to train Tang San to be the core of the entire team. Only in this way could Tang San be more dazzling and Yu Zairogang's master name more resounding. Flanders, who was watching the battle, saw Li Yusong not far away rushing towards this side in a hurry, and couldn't help but stopped him out of curiosity. "Lao Li, why are you in such a hurry?" Li Yusong was relieved when he saw it was Flanders. "Dean, something has happened, something has happened." As soon as the words came out of his mouth, before Flanders could speak, Zhao Wukai on the side couldn't help it anymore. "What's the matter? Are you here to find fault? Let me Lao Zhao meet him for a while." Ever since being beaten up by Tang Hao, Zhao Wuji was full of aggrieved. He went to the Stardew Forest a few days ago and thought he could relax a little, but he was beaten up by the Forest Overlord Titan Gigantua again, and he was even more aggrieved. Now that he finally heard Li Yusong say that there was someone who was making trouble, Zhao Wuji immediately became energetic and wanted to beat up the person on the spot and relax. Flanders considered the matter more carefully. He first stopped Zhao Wuji and then looked at Li Yusong with a serious face. "Old Lei, did you fight him?" Li Yusong shook his head. "No. Then his soul power is very high." "He didn't light up the soul ring." Flender couldn't deal with this question. Zhao Wukai at the side was impatient, stood up again, and said on the spot that he would go to meet the visitor in person. But he was stopped by Flender again. "What are you looking for? Listen to Lao Li and finish speaking." In desperation, Zhao Wuji had no choice but to cast his gaze on Li Yusong. "Lao Li, we have been old brothers for more than 10 years. If you have anything to say, can you finish it at one time? I am so anxious to death, Lao Zhao." Chapter 65, Yu Zairogang's Enemy. "Lao Li, we have been old brothers for more than 10 years. If you have anything to say, can you finish it at one time? I am so anxious to death, Lao Zhao." Li Yusong didn't hold back anymore and spoke. "I have never fought with that person before, but it's not that I haven't touched him, it's that I haven't even touched his hair." Zhao Wuji said carelessly. "What do I think? He is very fast. Look at Lao Zhao, I will beat the shit out of him with one move of positioning and tracking." And Flender frowned, glared at Zhao Wukai, and looked at Li Yusong again after Zhao Wukai shut up obediently. "Old Lei, continue talking." "It's not that the man is fast, and he disappeared in an instant. Just under my nose, less than 2 meters away, when I was staring at him, he disappeared in a blink of an eye. Then he appeared in another place without a sound. a place. Zhao Wuji also fell silent at this time. Old Zhao has been around for so many years and has never heard of anyone who can disappear with a swoosh. Is it another titled Douluo? As Li Yusong's older brother for more than 10 years, Flender knows him too well. With a soul power of level 66, he can't even catch the opponent's shadow when he is concentrating on it. It must also be at the low-level contra level. But Li Yusong continued. But the other party doesn't seem to have any ill intentions towards us Shrek. They just came to trouble the master. Zhao Wuji breathed a sigh of relief at this time. Although he was reckless, he was not stupid. He knew who he could offend and who he couldn't. For people like Li Yusong who were difficult to offend at first sight, he should just ignore them if he could. Besides, who is Yu Zairogang? What does it have to do with Lao Zhao if people cause trouble for him? He acts like an expert hermit with his hands behind his back every day, but in fact he is a loser who can't even break through to level. He still yells in the academy all day long, as if he is the boss and the second child. But just when Zhao Wukai was about to turn around and leave, Flender scolded him. What does it mean to have no malice towards a Shrek? Isn't Zairogang a member of our Shrek? Now someone is coming to trouble him, how can we just sit idly by? Zhao Wuji was stunned, and had to retract the leg he had just stepped out. He was just about to say a few words of advice to Flanders, when Yu Zairogang heard the movement and came over. Flander, what's the matter? Tang San and others also looked over after Yu Zairogang walked over. Before Flanders could speak, Zhao Wuji on the side couldn't help it. What else can happen? Your enemy has come to Shrek's door. Old Zhao. Before Zhao Wukai finished speaking, he was interrupted by Flender's scolding. Zhao Wuji also had no choice but to shut his mouth in embarrassment, but still glanced at Yu Zairogang unhappily. As if he was afraid that Zhao Wuji's words would affect Yu Zairogang, Flanders spoke. Zairogang, don't worry too much. There must be some misunderstanding here. We will accompany you to take a look. Yu Zairogang frowned. Enemy? What enemy? As a great soul master, he stayed in a small place like Notting City every day, so what kind of enemies could he have? But after hearing what Flender said, Yu Zairogang had no choice but to nod his head and agree. When Tang San and others heard the commotion, they all came forward to ask what was going on. After learning that someone was looking for trouble, they all expressed their intention to follow along and have a look. In less than a quarter of an hour, Flanders, Zhao Wuji, Yu Zairogang and several other teachers arrived at the door along with Tang San and the other 7. At this time, Yin Hao, the avatar, was half closing his eyes, looking leisurely. Flender stepped forward, cupped his hands and said, "In Flanders, I have seen this senior. I don't know what the senior is here for." Yin Hao, who had kept his eyes closed all this time, finally opened them. Flender the Four-Eyed Owl, I'm not interested in you, call Yu Zairogang out. Flanders frowned slightly when he heard this, but before he could say anything, Yu Zairogang stepped forward behind him. I'm Zia Yu Zairogang. I don't know when I offended the senior. I hope the senior can point it out. Yin Hao, the avatar with his hands behind his back, looked like an expert and glanced at him. Yu Zairogang, the name of the master has been known for a long time. The corners of Yu Zairogang's mouth turned up, and he couldn't help but feel a little proud, but he still said, "Dare not." The clone Yin Hao continued. Okay, don't talk nonsense. I'm here to collect debts, Yu Zairogang. Some people say that you are bluffing around in the name of Wuhandian, and the 10 core competitiveness of Wuhan that you proposed are even plagiarized from the sages of Wuhandian. The knowledge is shamelessly claimed to be my own. This account should be settled. Hearing this, everyone in Shrek turned their attention to Yu Zairogang. Tang San and others were probably confused. Did the teacher plagiarize the knowledge of the sages of the Spirit Hall? Zhao Wuji and the others were mostly gloating over their misfortune. They were not familiar with Yu Zairogang, and they only came here for the sake of their boss, Flanders. But Yu Zairogang's face, which had been smiling just now, instantly turned dark. Are you from the Spirit Hall? The avatar Yin Hao didn't refute, but raised his right hand and said to Yu Zairogang, "In the name of Wuhan Palace, I will ask you to repay the debt you owe." At the same time, he also said silently to the system in his mind, "System, receive Yu Zairogang's level 29 soul power and soul ring age limit." As I can. Originally, when he saw Yin Hao's movement was just a simple raise of his hand, Yu Zairogang didn't take it for granted, but he didn't finish his sentence. Wuhan uncontrollably appeared in front of everyone's eyes, and then under the shocked expressions of everyone, the two yellow spirit rings slowly turned white, and Yu Xiaorogang's spirit power also slowly decreased. Yu Xiaorogang panicked a little. Fallen, you are a fallen soul master. Wuhan Palace dares to provide shelter to a fallen soul master. Aren't you afraid of attracting verbal and written criticism from everyone in the world? But no matter what he said, the avatar Yin Hao didn't pay attention to him, but it took only 2 seconds. Yu Xiaorogang's aura dropped from that of a level 29 Great Soul Master to that of an ordinary person, and the 2 soul rings on his body instantly shattered. No, you can't do that. Yu Xiaorogang's eyes were red, and he looked at his clone Yin Hao angrily, looking like he wanted to eat people. Although his soul power at level 29 is not high, he is still a soul master. In this world where most people are ordinary people, he can be regarded as a master. But all of this came to naught with the behavior of the black-haired young man in front of him. Flanders and others were also stunned. They were several meters apart, and they didn't even summon the martial spirit. Under their gaze, they turned a soul master into an ordinary person without any fluctuations in soul power. Chapter 66: Yu Xiaorogang's Hate. Although he didn't know the other party's methods, how could Flender, Yu Xiaorogang's good brother, watch his good brother being bullied in vain? In an instant, his soul power shook, and the cat-eagle martial soul possessed him, and 7 yellow, purple, and black soul rings surrounded him. Then the 4th soul ring lit up, and several air blades emerged out of thin air, and quickly attacked in the direction of clone Yin Hao. The clone Yin Hao did not make any unnecessary movements, and allowed the air blade to attack him. However, something unexpected happened to everyone. Several sharp air blades directly passed through the body of the clone Yin Hao and hit the ground, leaving a long scratch. Dean Flender, although I don't want to fight you, it's not impossible to touch you. Even if you have confidence in your own strength, you should think about the group of children behind you, right? To be honest, if it weren't for the bug skill Shenwei, Yin Hao would never trouble Yu Xiaorogang in front of Flanders. There is no other reason. He is the soul saint. If he really takes action, there is no need. With divine power, he can't even hold it for 10 rounds, so the best way now is to use divine power, a bug skill, to scare Flanders so that he doesn't dare to take action. Moreover, I had never shown the Sharingan skill in front of Shrek or Tang San before. Even when I usually used the Sharingan, it was under the camouflage skill of the blue-silver domain, so I didn't have to worry about being exposed. Sure enough, after hearing this, Flanders turned his head slightly and glanced at the 7 children behind him. He frowned, but he could only withdraw his martial spirit helplessly. On the other hand, Tang San, with a gloomy face and a long scar on his face, took advantage of this moment to raise his wrist in the direction of the clone Yin Hao, and 3 arrows with a cold light shot in the direction of the clone Yin Hao. Go away. But Yin Hao was already on guard against him, so how could he let him succeed? He dodged a few arrows with just a slight dodge, and then activated the kaleidoscope in his left eye. Divine power. What? In just a few seconds, everyone only heard a scream, and then they saw Tang San half kneeling on the ground with his left arm covered in pain, and his left arm seemed to have no support, hanging weakly. Little San. When Yu Xiaorogang saw that Tang San was injured, he no longer felt sorry for his soul power and ran up to Tang San on the ground. In his eyes, Tang San was the key to him proving himself to the world, so nothing could happen to him. However, the clone Yin Hao obviously had no intention of letting Tang San go, so he raised his right hand again and pointed it in Tang San's direction. Yu Xiaorogang, who had already experienced it once, immediately panicked. No! However, the clone Yin Hao did not pause because of his words. Dare to fight with me, then I will give you a small punishment. The system absorbs Tang San's 6th level spirit power and the age of the spirit ring. Tang San was different from Yu Xiaorogang. He only owed Yin Hao 6 levels of soul power, and he just took this opportunity to get it all back. A scene similar to that of Yu Xiaorogang appeared again. Tang San's martial soul, which was still wailing, appeared automatically. Then the color of the soul ring changed from yellow to white, and the soul power level also began to decrease. Level 26, level 25. It dropped all the way to level 21 and then stopped. Watching this scene, Daimyo and the others swallowed their saliva and subconsciously took half a step back, as if they wanted to distance themselves from Tang San's master and apprentice. All this was seen by Tang San. A sinister look flashed in his eyes, but he hid it well. After finishing all this, the avatar Yin Hao smiled with satisfaction. Dean Flanders, I'm sorry for disturbing you, so I'll take my leave. But before Flanders could say anything, Yu Xiaogang, who was staying next to Tang San, rushed to Flanders like crazy, grabbed his clothes and shouted loudly. Flender, stop him, stop him. He sucked away Zyrosen's soul power and the age of the soul ring. Stop him. Flender looked embarrassed, not to mention the strange methods and unpredictable strength of the person in front of him. Besides Tang San, there are 6 students here. He must be responsible for their safety. But Yu Xiaogang didn't care about this. After seeing Flanders' silence, he became even more angry. He pulled Flanders' collar hard and stared at Flanders with red eyes. Flanders, if you still recognize me as your brother, just step forward and stop him. Xiaogang, Flender glanced at Yu Xiaogang in embarrassment. He wanted to help Yu Xiaogang, but Yin Hao's words just now made him have to consider the children behind him. Zhao Wuji at the side couldn't listen any longer, stepped forward and kicked Yu Xiaogang down. What are you yelling at in front of my boss? Is my boss your enemy or that guy just now? Why don't you fucking go yourself? Zhao Wukai's strength was already great, but Yu Xiaogang had no soul power at all at this moment. After being kicked by Zhao Wukai, he could only lie on the ground in pain, unable to speak a word. Flanders panicked when he saw this. He first glared at Zhao Wuji complainingly, and then hurriedly stepped forward to support Yu Xiaogang. Xiaogang, are you okay? Who knows that Yu Xiaogang didn't appreciate it at all. After giving Zhao Wukai a sinister look, he directly shook Flender's hand away, then walked slowly to Tang San's side, helped the injured Tang San to leave. Flanders looked at the back of Yu Xiaogang, and then at the back of his clone Yin Hao not far away. A trace of embarrassment flashed across his face, but in the end it could only turn into a sigh. Boss, what is he, Yu Xiaogang? It was obviously the masked man who did it just now, but he yelled at you. He didn't dare to do it, and he forced you to do it. What a thing. Zhao Wuji's voice was not quiet. Yu Xiaogang and Tang San naturally heard it clearly before they had gone far. However, the two of them only paused for a moment and did not look back or reply. To shut up. Flanders glared at Zhao Wuji and then scolded. Hearing Flender's words, Zhao Wukai had no choice but to back away in embarrassment. But at this moment, a black shadow flashed past and flew towards the direction where Yin Hao, the clone, left before. Then there was Zyro Wu's cry. Hey Zhuking, what are you doing? Flender and the others were also attracted by Zhu Zhuking's actions and hurriedly shouted. Zhuking, what are you going to do? But Zhu Zhuking acted as if he hadn't heard it, and still chased in the direction where Yin Hao's clone left, and even used his martial soul to speed up the speed, leaving only a voice on the spot. Don't worry about me, I have something to do, and I'll be back when I'm done. Flender and the others had no choice but to give up after hearing this. Putting aside whether he would encounter the masked man from before, even if he did, there was nothing he could do, not to mention that he had only attacked Yu Xiaogang and Tang San after being here for so long, and he was here to collect debts. I have no intention of becoming an enemy of Shrek. Chapter 67, Zhu Zhuking wants to apprentice teacher. At this time, Yin Hao, the avatar, had already left Shrek's academy, left the village, and was walking in the direction of Sutuo City. At this moment, the clone Yin Hao, who heard the movement behind him, stopped, turned around and looked back, and spoke to the empty road. Come out. Zhu Zhuking didn't hide and showed up directly, standing not far in front of Yin Hao. What do you want from me? Just halfway through Yin Hao's words, Zhu Zhuking bowed and stretched in front of his clone Yin Hao. Yin Hao was stunned. What are you doing? Zhu Zhuking kowtowed 3 times respectfully, and then spoke in a serious manner. Senior, please accept me as a disciple. Now Yin Hao was completely dumbfounded. Was his performance so successful? However, he was dumbfounded, and Yin Hao still put on the air of a worldly expert and said leisurely, Get up, I never accept disciples easily. Zhu Zhuking seemed unwilling to give up, knelt on the ground and continued to speak sincerely. I wonder what conditions Senior needs to accept a disciple. Zhu Zhuking is willing to accept it. I just ask Senior to accept me. The avatar Yin Hao frowned. Why is this script not right? But it seems that it is not acting. The corners of Yin Hao's mouth raised slightly, then he straightened his expression and said, "What is your martial spirit?" Zhu Zhuqing did not dare to be negligent and said respectfully, "Ghost civet." The avatar Yin Hao pondered for a while, as if he was thinking of something. Zhu Zhuqing didn't dare to disturb him, for fear of offending the person in front of him. The whole scene fell silent for a moment. After a long time, only Yin Hao, the avatar, spoke. "Your surname is Zhu, and you are a nether civet spirit cat, so you should be from the Zhu family of the Star Luo Empire, right?" Zhu Zhuqing did not refute, but nodded and admitted. "Then why do you want to worship me as a teacher?" Without any hesitation, Zhu Zhuqing answered. Zhu Qing didn't dare to hide from seniors. This time, Zhu Qing has only one purpose in her apprenticeship, and that is to become stronger. Europe. Yin Hao smiled slightly. "What are you doing to become stronger? Help your fiancé fight for the throne." Zhu Zhuqing was silent for a while, then raised his head. His eyes flashed with firmness and cruelty, and he spoke. "I don't have a fiancé. A friend of mine once told me, a traitor is always more hateful than an enemy." The avatar Yin Hao chuckled twice, then continued. "That friend of yours is an interesting person." Zhu Zhuqing also smiled, with an inexplicable look on his face. "Yes, he is indeed a very interesting person, at least to me." The clone Yin Hao took 2 steps forward, walked to Zhu Zhuqing and said, "You are also very interesting, I promise you." Zhu Zhuqing was overjoyed and saluted again. Disciple Zhu Zhuqing paid a visit to the teacher, but he hasn't asked the teacher's name yet. The avatar Yin Hao quickly helped her up and said, "The teacher's name is Kakashi, but although you worship me as a teacher, I am used to walking alone, and I am not used to bringing people around." Zhu Zhuqing was a little anxious. Didn't she seek a teacher just to find a stronger teacher to teach her, so that she could become stronger, so that the traitor Dai Mubai would pay the due price? But if the teacher is willing not to take her, then she is still a ghost. Yin Hao, the avatar, also seemed to see Zhu Zhuqing's worry and said, "You don't have to worry, since I accept you, I won't leave you alone." Then he took out a jade pendant from his bosom and continued. "This thing is called Chungsin Jade. If you have any troubles, you can rely on this thing to contact me as a teacher." Zhu Zhuqing took the jade pendant and saluted. "Thank you, teacher." The avatar Yin Hao nodded. "My good disciple, since you have worshipped me as your teacher, I will give you a gift as a teacher's apprenticeship ceremony." Afterwards, before Zhu Zhuqing could express anything, he saw him make a move, and a transparent bottle appeared in front of him in his hands. And the bottle contains some liquid, which contains a pair of eyes with 3 small tadpole-shaped eyes. Zhu Zhuqing glanced at the bottle in Yin Hao's hand in horror. She seemed to regret that she came here as soon as her head got hot. But the deal was done. Zhu Zhuqing had no choice but to stand aside strong and calm, waiting for Yin Hao's words from his avatar. Yin Hao, the avatar, naturally noticed Zhu Zhuqing's flash of panic, but he didn't care. If he hadn't seen Hokage, he would have this emotion when he saw this scene. This thing is called Sharingen, and it has the ability to assist in combat. Under the gaze of this pair of glasses, the enemy's every move will be slowed down. Even some of the enemy's self-created soul skills can be completely suppressed by you. After copying it, not only that these eyes also have a function, there is illusion, but this needs to be developed by yourself. Zhu Zhuqing swallowed this teacher, won't want to change his eyes, right? It may hurt a little next time, so bear with it a little bit. Just change it. Zhu Zhuqing gritted his teeth, then looked firmly at his clone Yin Hao and nodded. The clone Yin Hao didn't understand what Zhu Zhuqing was thinking now. He just said silently in his heart. System, combine the 3 Gu Jade with writing sharing eyes for Zhu Zhuqing. Converging. At the same time, Zhu Zhuqing only felt a sharp pain from both eyes at the same time, but what she was sure of was that it wasn't gouging out, but the pain from the eyes themselves. Zhu Zhuqing clenched his silver teeth and persisted silently without saying a word. After about 10 minutes, the pain gradually faded away. Panting heavily, Zhu Zhuqing touched his eyes in disbelief. They were intact, then turned to look at the bottle in Yin Hao's hand, but it was already empty. Take a look for yourself. Yin Hao, the avatar, passed the mirror with one hand and said at the same time. Zhu Zhuqing took the mirror over, and in the mirror his familiar face was still there, but his eyes turned blood red, and there were 3 little Gao circles on it. Teacher, this. Zhu Zhuqing raised his head and wanted to look at his clone Yin Hao, but there was still his figure in front of him. Only one drawing labeled Sharingen remained in place. Zhu Zhuqing first stood up and looked around, but he didn't see anyone, so he gave up, then picked up the blueprint on the ground and looked at it. Usage of Sharingen. 1 illusion. Relying on a certain flow of soul power, you can release illusions against the enemy. The illusions you can release are as follows. Magic, the art of hanging. Note, Sharingen will consume soul power when used. Do not open it unless necessary. Zhu Zhuqing roughly scanned the words on the paper, then carefully folded it and put it in his pocket. Illusions, he. After Zhu Zhuqing laughed twice, he turned and left there. Chapter 68, Return to Shrek. 3 days later, Shrek Academy. A carriage that wasn't noble but not simple stopped at the entrance of Shrek Academy. Enning Rongrong and Zyro Wu, who were walking towards the outside of the academy arm in arm, immediately stopped and looked at the carriage. And Li Yusong, who is the doorman teacher, also stood up quickly, turned his eyes to the carriage, and kept muttering in his heart, that person can't leave for 3 days and then come back, right? They didn't make them wait too long. After the carriage came to a complete stop, a handsome man in a white robe, holding a folding fan, and with loose blue hair behind him, got out of the carriage. Seeing someone coming, Li Yusong, who was standing guard at the door, was relieved and sat back down again. But Zyro Wu immediately showed a smile, and ignored Enning Rongrong. She let go of her hand and rushed towards the man, and then she hung on the man's body like a koala. Brother Hao. Yin Hao touched Zyro Wu's head, which was hanging on his body. Okay, there are still people here. Yes, there are still people here. Enning Rongrong, who was abandoned by Zyro Wu, also came up at this time, looked at Zyro Wu, who was hanging on Yin Hao's body and refused to get off, and said. Hearing what the two said, Zyro Wu reluctantly jumped off Yin Hao's body, but still tightly hugged Yin Hao's arm, unwilling to let go. Yin Hao didn't care. He turned his head and greeted Enning Rongrong. Long time no see, Rong. Enning Rongrong also laughed. Yes, it's been a long time. You took half a month's leave within 2 days after school started. You are the only one. Yin Hao still hadn't forgotten his excuse for asking for leave before, and said, Isn't there something wrong at home? Enning Rongrong seemed to remember it too, and asked a little cautiously. Then your grandfather. Hearing Enning Rongrong's question, Zyro Wu also looked over, waiting for Yin Hao's answer with concern. Yin Hao smiled and waved his hands. The old man is fine, but he is a little overworked. I found a doctor for him in the city, and he will be fine in a few days. No, I'll be back when he gets better. Old Jack, thank you, son thief. Hearing Yin Hao's answer, Zyro Wu breathed a sigh of relief, then continued to hold Yin Hao's arm and said nothing. By the way, isn't there any class in the academy today? Why did the two of you come out? Enning Rongrong seemed a little embarrassed, frowned, and said after thinking for a while. Go ahead, let's talk as we walk. Yin Hao nodded, then walked towards the academy with Zyro Wu and Enning Rongrong in unison, and greeted Li Yusong when passing by the door. You weren't here before, so I don't know. A mysterious man wearing a mask came to our academy 3 days ago. It seems that even the dean is not his opponent. Slander. This is pure slander. But it seems that Shrek doesn't have any malice towards him, and he came here specifically to collect debts from Grandmaster. After hearing Enning Rongrong's words, Yin Hao asked with a doubtful face, Oh, debt collection. What kind of debt? I have known the master for several years, and I don't know what debt he has. Enning Rongrong thought for a while, then said with disdain. People say that he came to collect debts for Wuhandian, that he used the name of Wuhandian to bluff and deceive everywhere, and even plagiarized the knowledge of Wuhandian's sages, saying that he proposed it himself. Yin Hao was shocked. Impossible, how could the master be such a person? Seeing that Yin Hao didn't believe it, Enning Rongrong looked at Yin Hao helplessly. After knowing him for so many years, he didn't see what kind of person he was. This is too simple, right? At this moment, a sound sounded not far in front of Yin Hao and the others, and Yin Hao and the others felt that they looked up, and they saw Tang San, whose arms were tied with bandages hanging around his neck, looking at them. Undoubtedly, he heard the conversation between the two of them clearly just now, and then he gave Enning Rongrong a stern look, but immediately covered it up, and greeted Yin Hao with a smile. "Brother Hao, are you back?" After seeing Tang San, Yin Hao was also very happy, and wanted to say hello to Tang San with a smile, but before he could say anything, he noticed the condition of Tang San's arm, and said with a frown, "Little San, what happened to your arm?" Brother Hao is still that Brother Hao. For so many days, the group of Shrek guys just ignore me, except for avoiding me. Only Brother Hao still cares about me so much. A touch of emotion flashed in Tang San's heart, and then he said with a little bitterness, "A few days ago, was beaten by the teacher's enemy." To be honest, Tang San regretted it after that day. He didn't expect that person not only used weird methods, but also unpredictable attack methods. He not only broke his arm with a method he didn't know at all, but also sucked away his 6th level spirit power, and the age limit of a soul ring has made my 200-year soul rings become 10-year soul rings. What's even more damning is Flender and the others. Before, they always said that they were so many soul saints and so many soul emperors, but their soul power was sucked away by others, and they didn't even dare to fart. Take the way of death. Sure enough, after listening to Tang San's words, Yin Hao revealed a face full of anger. "Who did it? Tell me, I will avenge you." Tang San glanced at Yin Hao gratefully, but still shook his head. "That person didn't leave a name. We only know that he is from Wuhan Palace." Hearing this, even Yin Hao, who was full of anger and wants to avenge Tang San, had to sigh, and then took out a bottle of medicine from the ring. "Hey, then you should heal your injury first. This is my homemade medicine for treating trauma. It has a good effect on fractures and the like. You should use it first. But that person who dares to hurt you, I will definitely not let him go." "Why don't you let him go? Yin Hao said he would spank his girlfriend's ass." More spankings. Tang San took the medicine with a full face. He had suffered so many injuries since he was a child, but Brother Hao could always give him the medicine when he needed it. He really cared about him. Congratulations to the host for trading a bottle of trauma medicine for obtaining 2 levels of Tang San's soul power. Do you want to receive it? Get 2 levels of soul power all at once this time. After so many years of hard work, finally moved this old Yinbai. Not yet. Then Yin Hao continued. "Little San, why do I feel that the fluctuation of your soul power is not as strong as when I left? What's going on?" Speaking of this, Tang San became even more bitter. This was also done by that person. He didn't know how to absorb other people's soul power. Not only did he absorb all the soul power of the teacher, but he also sucked away my 6th level soul power. Chapter 69, Dai Mu by Sick. Hearing Tang San's words, Yin Hao was even more surprised, as if he didn't believe that anyone else could possess such a weird ability. But in the end, after Zyro Wu and Enning Rongrong's double confirmation, he still reluctantly believed it. Just when Tang San looked bitter, Yin Hao seemed to remember something. "Hey, by the way, Zyrosan, do you still remember what you told me about exotic flowers and plants?" Tang San looked at Yin Hao with some confusion. When Yin Hao chatted with him a few years ago, he had talked about exotic flowers and exotic herbs. At that time, Tang San also casually mentioned the appearance and functions of immortal grass. The content was briefly told, but why did he bring it up now? Could it be? Tang San looked at Yin Hao excitedly. Did Brother Hao find the legendary fairy grass? And Enning Rongrong looked at Yin Hao strangely, chatting well. Why are you talking about flowers and plants? Yin Hao didn't hesitate and spoke. That's right, when I went home this time, I accidentally took the wrong road and accidentally discovered a weird garden. I didn't care about it at first, but after taking a second look, I felt that the flowers and plants inside told you something. My fairy grasses were very similar, so I brought them back. Where is it? Where is the grass jelly? Tang San instantly became excited. Ever since the masked man sucked away the 6th level soul power, Tang San has been thinking about cultivating back quickly. But how can soul power be so easy to cultivate? Even though he worked harder than before, days passed and he still failed to reach even 1 level. Seeing Tang San's excitement, Enning Rongrong and Zyro Wu looked confused, as if they were wondering why he suddenly went crazy. Yin Hao didn't talk nonsense and said directly, "I've prepared a piece of grass jelly for each of us Shrek. Let's call everyone over first before sharing." Although Tang San couldn't wait, the fairy grass belonged to Yin Hao after all, and he couldn't turn his back on the guest, so he nodded and prepared to call someone. But just after taking 2 steps, he stopped again, turned around and said hesitantly, Brother Hao boss Dai, just stop calling. Yin Hao was really stunned this time. What's going on? Could it be that Dai Mubai and Tang San had conflicts? That's not right. With Tang San's character as an old Yinbai, even if there is a conflict, shouldn't it be a black hand? How did it come to light? Seeing that Yin Hao didn't speak, Tang San might also feel that he had misunderstood, and then he opened his mouth to explain. I don't know what happened to Boss Dai these 2 days. It's a bit not normal. As soon as Tang San finished speaking, before Yin Hao could express anything, Enning Rongrong took over the words. Right, just the day before yesterday, we originally planned to continue the class. Who knew that before the class started, Dai Mubai rushed at Ma Hongjun like crazy, while picking up Ma Hongjun's clothes, muttering words in his mouth what to say. You are mine, I like you and so on. Zyro Wu, who was holding Yin Hao's arm, also showed a disgusted expression and continued. At first we thought it was a joke, and Dean Flender hurried forward to pull him up, but this guy went crazy and wanted to tear Dean Flender's clothes. The dean had no choice but to find a rope and tie him up in the room. This method was quite effective. He returned to normal after staying in the room for a day. We all thought that it would be fine, but what we didn't expect was that the next day yesterday, during class, that scene happened again. This series of words made Yin Hao confused. What the hell is this scene in the original novel? But Yin Hao calmed down and thought for a while before asking. Where's Zhu Qing? Why didn't you see her? Enning Rongrong responded casually. Zhu Qing, she is timid. Maybe she was frightened by Dai Mubai's actions yesterday, and her face turned a little pale. It just so happens that there is no class today, so she is still resting in the room. Hearing this, Yin Hao also understood the cause and effect. How could this be Dai Mubai's illness? This is an illusion, and it's a sharing an illusion. As for the person who cast the spell, it's because the soul power gap with Dai Mubai is too large, and the mental power is seriously exhausted, so his face is pale. Wanting to understand this matter, Yin Hao couldn't help but chuckled secretly, this Zhu Qing. Really? Then Yin Hao spoke. It's okay, let's call him, we are all here, even if he gets sick, we can stop him in time. Hearing Yin Hao's words, Tang San stopped talking, nodded and went to the dormitory to call someone, and Enning Rongrong also consciously went back to the girls' dormitory to call Zhu Qing. Half an hour later, the Shrek Academy playground. Following the arrival of Tang San and Enning Rongrong, Dai Mubai, Ma Hongjun, Zhu Qing, Oscar and others also came to the big playground. However, it is worth mentioning that Ma Hongjun, Oscar, and Tang San seem to intentionally keep a distance from Dai Mubai, leaving a large no-man's land around Dai Mubai. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio. When everyone came to the big playground, Flender and Yu Xiaogang also came. Yin Hao first said hello to the 2 of them briefly, then turned his attention to Zhu Qing and the others. After greeting them, he got down to business. Zyro-san and Rongrong have told you, I encountered some adventures when I went out this time. I thought I couldn't use it by myself, so I brought the things back to you. Hearing Yin Hao's words, everyone in Shrek was very excited, especially Dai Mubai. He had heard Tang San say before that the things Yin Hao brought back this time would not only allow him to quickly increase his soul power, but even give him a chance to use martial arts, soul evolution. Then, in that case, I might be able to defeat my elder brother and win the throne. Zhu Qing, on the other hand, didn't show much. There was an inexplicable light in his eyes as he looked at Yin Hao intently. Then Yin Hao didn't talk nonsense, and took out a jade box directly from the ring, opened it, and found a huge chrysanthemum inside. It was a huge chrysanthemum. The chrysanthemum was a magnificent purple color. What was strange was that every petal of the chrysanthemum looked fluffy and extraordinarily cute. The whole chrysanthemum was integrated into one, but no fragrance leaked out. The stamens in the center were high. The petals are more than half a foot long, and the top of the stamen shines with a faint golden light. It is the strange velvet Tongshan chrysanthemum, fake, that Yin Hao spent a full 500 gold soul coins to exchange for. But even though it was a fake, even the titled Douluo Nihong didn't see the slightest difference after comparing the real and the fake for a long time, and Tang San, who only had the cultivation of a great soul master, naturally couldn't tell. Chapter 70 Accident. Sure enough, the moment the jade box was opened, Tang San screamed out. Extraordinary velvet Babel chrysanthemum. Dai Mubai and the others were attracted by Tang San's voice, all looking at him. Tang San didn't show off and explained. This is called strange velvet Tongshan chrysanthemum, and it is a neutral fairy herb. It can be eaten to move the limbs, and the blood to flow through the 8 veins. It can cultivate the indestructible body of the Vajra. Is King Kong not bad? Dai Mubai, Ma Hongjian and the men's eyes lit up, and then they all looked at Yin Hao. But before Yin Hao could speak, Tang San spoke again. The function of Kai Rong Tian Tian Chuan is mainly to strengthen the body. Boss Dai should be the most suitable. Hearing Tang San's words, Dai Mubai also looked at Tang San gratefully. You. Zyro Wu pointed at Tang San and just wanted to say, this is not yours. It is suitable for whoever you say it is suitable for. But before he could say anything, he was stopped by Yin Hao. Then Yin Hao handed the Kaiying Tongxianju, false, to Dai Mubai with a smile on his face and said, Mubai, Zyrosan knows these fairy grasses better than I do. Since he said it's more suitable for you, then I'll give you this strange velvet Babel chrysanthemum. Dai Mubai glanced at Yin Hao gratefully, then hurriedly took the Kaiying Tongxianju fake over. Then Yin Hao said something half-jokingly. This was chosen by Zyrosan for you. If something goes wrong, don't blame me. Tang San also took it as a joke, and said directly with a smile on his face. Brother Hao is right, come find me if there is a problem. Afterwards, Yin Hao successively took out Coxcomb Phoenix Sunflower, false, 8-petal Fairy Orchid, false, and Wangchun Kirshuelu, false, and asked Tang San to distribute them. The grass jelly was distributed among Ma Hongjian, Oscar and himself. Then it was the girl's turn, and Yin Hao took out the real fairy herbs, namely Kiluo Tulip, Yaoxiang Kiluo Immortal Grade and King of Immortal Grade, Acacia Broken Heart Red. When seeing the first 2 plants, Tang San was quite calm, but when he saw the last Acacia Broken Heart, he was surprised again. Lovesick Heartbroken Red, it's cow Lovesick Heartbroken Red. What Flower King? There is also a Flower King in the fairy product. Ma Hongjian, who had already got the jelly grass, asked curiously from the side. Tang San nodded, then spoke. Suishua brother Hao brought back these are all fairy herbs, but their functions are also divided into strengths and weaknesses. Like this Acacia Heartbroken Red, it is known as the Fairy of the Fairy, the King of Fairy Flowers. It also has a legendary story, a long time ago. Then Tang San Ba told the legend of Acacia Broken Heart Red again, and the author will not count the words here. After listening to Tang San's words, the 3 girls Zyro Wu, Zhu Zhuqing and Enning Rongrong felt a little touched, but they didn't speak. Tang San continued. Flowers are extraordinary products, choose the owner, and when picking you must think of your beloved lover in your heart, be sincere, spit out a mouthful of blood and sprinkle it on the petals. If you are half-hearted, even if you vomit blood and die, you will never want to pick the flowers. Flowers after taking it off, as long as it is by the owner's side, it will never wither. The stone under the flower is named Wuju. If it is forcibly destroyed, this Acacia Heartbroken Red will also lose its medicinal power. Eating this herb has the same immortality as heaven and earth. I conservatively estimate that at least 10 levels of soul power can be raised, and there will be a comprehensive transformation of the body. Then Tang San looked at Zyro Wu, who was still holding Yin Hao's arm, and said, Zyro Wu, you and brother Hao are the only couple in Shrek. How about, you give it a try? Zyro Wu raised her head and glanced at Yin Hao. After seeing Yin Hao nodding, she let go of Yin Hao's arm and prepared to step forward, but before she could walk over, she was stopped by a voice. Wait, I want to try too. Everyone's eyes were instantly attracted, and Zhu Zhuqing was still standing there with a cold face, but the movement of stepping forward showed that the words just now were spoken by her. Seeing Zhu Zhuqing approaching, Dai Mubai's eyes lit up. He knew, even though Zhu Zhuqing rejected him many times, but it was just an appearance. In reality, she still pretended to be herself, otherwise she wouldn't take the initiative, go forward and try. Zhu Zhuqing looked at Yin Hao, as if he wanted to get his answer. Yin Hao would not refuse, he nodded and agreed. After getting Yin Hao's permission, Zhu Zhuqing's soul power circulated in her body, stimulating her kai and blood. Then her lips opened slightly, and a mouthful of blood spat out on the petals. Originally, Yin Hao didn't think that she could take off the lovesickness Heartbroken Red. After all, because of her own reasons, it is impossible for her to have much affection for Daimyu by now. As for himself, how long has he known Zhu Zhuqing? It's only been 2 months, and Yin Hao doesn't think he has such a high charisma. But the facts are often unexpected. After Zhu Zhuqing's blood was sprayed on the petals, the lovesickness heartbroken red that had just grown on the Wuju stone fell directly without shaking at all. Seeing this scene, Daimyu Bai couldn't hide the smile on his face anymore. But Yin Hao's side was filled with endless shock. What's going on? It is unlikely that Zhu Zhuqing still likes Daimyu Bai. The comparison of the words when he asked the avatar to be his teacher before, and the use of illusion on Daimyu Bai shows this point. That's not Daimyu Bai, could it be him? When watching Douluo Dalu in his previous life, Yin Hao saw many book friends commenting on the relationship between Bibi Dong and Yu Xiaogang, saying that Bibi Dong didn't love Yu Xiaogang that much, but it was Chihiro Jai who destroyed Bibi Dong's love. Faith made her heart gradually filled with darkness, and the master, as her first love, became the only light in her past life, so she kept beautifying him in her heart, resulting in crazy love. And now, Yin Hao took a look at Zhu Zhuqing. Just in time, Zhu Zhuqing was also looking at him. After the two looked at each other, Zhu Zhuqing immediately looked away again. It couldn't be Daimyu Bai's actions and her own words that made her completely disappointed in Daimyu Bai, but the pressure from Xing Luo and her disappointment in Daimyu Bai made her somewhat similar to Bibi Dong, while she was equivalent to Yu Xiaogang's position. Yin Hao couldn't help feeling a bit chilly on his back, not because he was afraid that Zhu Zhuqing would like him, but he always felt that he seemed to have led Zhu Zhuqing astray, which made her look a bit black now. Isn't there a saying, 2-dimensional encounters a sick girl and I face the difficulties, and 3-dimensional encounters a sick girl and I turn around and run away? She's a little bit like this now. Seeing the lovesick heartbroken red being picked off by Zhu Zhuqing, Zyro Wu curled her lips a little unhappy, but didn't say much. And Yin Hao also distributed the remaining 2 celestial grasses to Enning Rongrong and Zyro Wu after Zhu Zhuqing successfully picked the acacia heartbroken red. Then a group of 7 people met Yu Xiaogang in Flender. Forget about Yu Xiaogang. Under the protection of Flanders and Yin Hao, the 7 people drank the fairy grass in their hands. Chapter 71, Xuanshan Treasure Record is wrong. Just after Tang San and the others took the celestial herb, Yin Hao's mind also started to beep one after another. Congratulations to the host for getting Daimyu Bai's soul ring years, 1000 with the Kaiying Tongshan chrysanthemum. False trade, do you want to claim it? Congratulations to the host for trading the 8-petal celestial orchid. False, to get the Oscar soul ring years 800, do you want to receive it? Congratulations to the host for getting the 10th level of Tang San's soul power in exchange for Wangchun Kirshuelu. False, do you want to receive it? Congratulations to the host for getting Ma Hongzhen's soul ring years *900 with the Coxcomb Phoenix Sunflower. Fake trade, do you want to claim it? As a system prompt sounded, a large amount of income was successfully credited. Before the soul power of Yu Xiaogang and Tang San that had been absorbed before could be absorbed, another sum came in. It was really helpless. At this moment, Yu Xiaogang also came to Yin Hao's side, whispering softly. Xiaohao, this fairy grass, is it really as magical as Zyrosan said? Yin Hao spread his hands and spoke. I don't know, but after I use it, my soul power has increased a lot. Now I'm almost the soul king. Yu Xiaogang glanced at Yin Hao in surprise. You are about to be the soul king. I remember that when you left Notting College 5 months ago, didn't you just become the soul master? You have been promoted to more than 10 levels in less than half a year. Rare is more strange. If you absorb all the soul power you got from you and Tang San, it will be even higher. Yin Hao murmured a few words to himself, and then said, Yes, but I only reached this level after eating 4 fairy grasses, so the speed of improvement is a bit faster. Yu Xiaogang nodded his head when he heard the words, and his worries about the fairy grass all of a sudden became much less. As time slowly passed, Tang San woke up first. But after seeing Tang San wake up, Yu Xiaogang immediately approached him. How do you feel, little San? Yu Xiaogang's concern for Tang San is absolutely beyond doubt, although most of the reason is because he wants to use Tang San to justify his name. Tang San exhaled a foul breath, then stood up, feeling the changes in his body. Eyes level 29. But isn't Wangchun Kirshuelu mainly to enhance pupil power? How could there be no change in my pupil power? But my soul power increased so much. Could it be that the records in the Xuantian treasure record are wrong? What's the matter, little San? Seeing that Tang San didn't speak, Yu Zairogang became a little anxious and hurriedly said another sentence. Ah, teacher, I'm fine, and my soul power has reached level 29. Rail! Yu Zairogang grabbed Tang San's arm, looking more excited than Tang San himself. What? At this moment, Ma Hongzhen not far away suddenly uttered a scream. Yin Hao, Tang San and the others hurriedly looked. Ma Hongzhen's face was flushed red, his whole body was steaming, his eyes were big and round, his whole body was like a small stove. Looking down again, Flender was terrified. Ma Hongzhen was his disciple, although his conduct was not good, but he still had feelings. Seeing Ma Hongzhen acting strangely, Flender hurried forward. Hongzhen, what's wrong with you? Talk. Tang San was also confused. What is going on? According to his idea, after feeding the fat man the cockscomb phoenix sunflower, the yang will be used to control the yang, and the rigid will be used to overcome the rigid, purifying the impurities in the originally impure flame in his body, thereby eliminating the evils caused by the evil fire and transforming into a real flame. Phoenix flame. But now, why does it feel like his evil fire is getting stronger? Flender glanced at Tang San, but now was not the time to pursue responsibility. He hurriedly activated the martial spirit. The owl martial spirit appeared, and then spoke. I'll take Hongzhen to the city to let off steam first. Zairogang, I'll leave the children to you first. After finishing speaking, without waiting for a few people to reply, he took Ma Hongzhen and left through the air. The direction was exactly the direction of Sutuo City. Of course Yu Zairogang knew what Flender meant by letting out the fire, so he just nodded without saying anything. And Tang San looked at Flender, who left with a dazed expression. He suddenly felt that the Xuantian treasure record that he relied on for survival also had errors in its records. After all, fairy grass is something in legends. Maybe it varies from person to person. The Xuantian treasure record cannot be wrong. Tang San forced himself to comfort himself, and then turned his attention to Enning Rongrong and the others who were still absorbing the fairy grass, and hoped that there would be no more problems with them. It's not that he cares about Enning Rongrong and the others, but that the fairy grass is selected by him according to the Xuantian treasure's record. If they have problems, it means that Tang San is wrong. And if he is wrong, it means that the Xuantian treasure is wrong. It means that the guiding lights of life he has always believed in are wrong, which he cannot accept. God seemed to have heard his heart, as Enning Rongrong, Zyro Wu and Zhu Zhuqing slowly absorbed the fairy grass. There were no more problems. This made Tang San couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Sure enough, the Xuantian treasure record is impossible to be wrong. Ning Rongrong took the lead in absorbing the immortal herbs, and after opening his eyes, he felt his own condition first, and then shouted in surprise. I'm level. Enning Rongrong had already reached level 26 and was close to level 27. It was completely expected that she would reach level after taking Kiluo Tulip. There was even a part of the medicine that had not been absorbed. She needed to finish absorbing the soul. It can continue to function after the ring. Enning Rongrong felt the soul power in her body, and then turned to look at her own body. The two jade arms that were originally as white as snow were now like white jade. No girl is unwilling to have a better skin, and Enning Rongrong is the same, even for her. The joy of getting better skin is more gratifying than the improvement of her soul power. Excited, Enning Rongrong stood up and threw herself into Yin Hao's arms, and kissed Yin Hao's lips with her small cherry mouth. It seemed that Yin Hao didn't react, so he couldn't dodge in time, and then he was kissed by Enning Rongrong. Thank you, Yin Hao. Cough, cough. At this moment, a cough came from behind Enning Rongrong. Enning Rongrong quickly turned around and saw Zyro Wu staring at Yin Hao with a look of resentment. Enning Rongrong, feeling guilty, had no choice but to let go. Turning on Yin Hao, he took 2 steps back to distance himself. I don't know if it's an illusion, but Enning Rongrong always feels that besides Zyro Wu, there is another cold gaze looking at her, and it seems to have a strong aggressiveness. Seeing that Enning Rongrong took the initiative to distance herself from Yin Hao, Zyro Wu immediately withdrew her expression and put a smile on her face again, ran to Yin Hao's side quickly, hugged his arm and said, Brother Hao, I'm level. Yin Hao stroked Zyro Wu's hair and said with a smile, Okay, you are the best. Away. Chapter 72, The Daimyo Who Turned into a Mother. Zhu Zhuqing and the others also stood up at this time and said something coldly. I'm also level. Yin Hao looked at Zhu Zhuqing and said, Congratulations, Zhuqing. Hearing Yin Hao's words, a smile appeared on Zhu Zhuqing's cold face. Her my martial soul. Zhu Zhuqing, who was planning to continue chatting with Yin Hao, was interrupted by a voice. Zhu Zhuqing also frowned and looked behind him. I saw Enning Rongrong looking excitedly at the small tower in his hand. Zyro Wu seemed to have forgotten about Enning Rongrong's forced kiss on her brother Hao. After hearing Enning Rongrong's voice, she immediately asked with concern. What's wrong, Rongrong? Enning Rongrong pointed to the martial soul in his hand with surprise, and said, Zyro Wu, look, has my martial spirit changed? Zyro Wu looked at the small tower in her hand suspiciously, but after looking at it for a long time, she didn't see any changes. At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing beside Enning Rongrong spoke. Your martial soul, why has it become a 9th level? Hearing what Zhu Zhuqing said, Zyro Wu also suddenly realized, and after a closer look, it really is. The original 7-story pagoda now has 2 more floors, making it a 9th-story pagoda. Yu Zyrogang had already come out of the joy of Tang San's great improvement in soul power. After hearing the movement here, he slowly walked over with his hands behind his back, pretending to be an expert. Actually, the 7 Treasures Glazed Pagoda should have 9 floors, and its name should also be called the 9 Treasures Glazed Pagoda. However, due to some reasons, the martial spirit was defective, so it became the 7 Treasures Glazed Pagoda. And the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School has been searching for a way to evolve the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Pagoda for many years, but there is no result. I never thought that this trouble that has plagued the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School for thousands of years was solved by Zyro House Fairy Grass. Of course, Enning Rongrong also knew the secret of his sect, so he said to Yin Hao with gratitude. Thank you, Yin Hao. My father will be very happy to know this news. I am here to make a promise to you as the young master of the Kibao Glazed sect. As long as you need the Kibao Glazed sect in the future, our Kibao Glazed sect will definitely do our best. Help. In fact, Enning Rongrong really doesn't have that much face to represent the entire 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, but she believes that even if her father Enning Fengzhai knows the promise she made, he will definitely not object. Yin Hao nodded with a smile but did not speak. At this moment, Oscar and Dai Mubai, the only 2 remaining on the field who hadn't finished absorbing the fairy grass, also woke up one after another. Oscar woke up a little earlier than Dai Mubai, just opened his eyes. The first sentence was, I'm level 37. Then there was a burst of gratitude to Yin Hao, and of course he was grateful to Tang San, who helped him choose the fairy grass. Not long after Oscar woke up, Dai Mubai, who absorbed the slowest, also woke up. I'm level. A thin and somewhat rough voice came from Dai Mubai's mouth, causing everyone in the arena to be stunned. Dai Mubai himself also reacted. He froze on the spot and touched his neck. My voice. There was a burst of unmasculine and unfeminine voices from his throat, and Zyro Wu, who had the lowest laugh, couldn't help but burst out laughing, while Enning Rongrong, Oscar and the others also covered their mouths and held back their laughter. Yin Hao was also stunned for a moment. He remembered that when he changed these fairy products fake before, it was marked that there would be other side effects. He didn't expect this. Fake and shoddy products are not advisable. But the current Dai Mubai didn't have the time to care about everyone's reactions. He jumped up and stood up, only to discover something even more terrifying. Dai Mubai sadly discovered that his hips and butt seemed to have grown a lot bigger. Dai Mubai still couldn't believe it at first. He ignored the sound, quickly put his hand into the clothes, checked back and forth, but it didn't make any sense. How could this be? How could it be? Dai Mubai murmured a little foolishly, the 5 words, how could this happen, back and forth in his mouth. And Yu Zyrogang, as the only teacher present, also hurried forward to comfort him after seeing Dai Mubai's appearance. Mubai, it's okay, maybe this effect is only temporary. Look at the fairy grass that Zyro-san and the others ate with you. Isn't there nothing wrong with it? Dai Mubai, who heard these words, seemed to think of something, suddenly raised his head to look at Tang San. Tang San, you chose the fairy grass, why are you okay? Tang San frowned. It is true that I chose the fairy grass for you, but I chose the most suitable fairy grass for you, according to the attributes of each of you. Dai Mubai didn't seem to believe it, and continued to speak in his masculine voice. Then tell me, where did your knowledge about the effects of fairy grass come from? Show me. Tang San, who asked this question, was momentarily at a loss for words. Where did he come from? Of course it is recorded in the Xuantian treasure record. Where did the Xuantian treasure record come from? That is what I kept in mind in my previous life. Can I say this? Don't talk about what will happen. People don't believe it. Afterwards, Tang San could only say something forcefully and a little helplessly. No comment. In fact, the fairy grass was given by Yin Hao, so it stands to reason that Dai Mubai should go to Yin Hao. In fact, this is not the case. Yin Hao said from the beginning that he did not know enough about the fairy grass, and Tang San took the initiative to assign the fairy grass. However, Tang San himself and Zyro Wu and others were fine after eating it, which also shows that Yin Hao gave there is nothing wrong with the grass jelly. The only ones who have problems are those who distribute the fairy grass. Who else can Dai Mubai turn to? In the end, it was the good old man Yin Hao who came out again and comforted Dai Mubai for a while. First he said that this should only be a temporary effect, so don't worry, and that Dai Mubai's soul power has indeed been greatly improved. So he gave up and stared after glancing at Tang San. He turned and went back to the dormitory. And looking at the back of him leaving, Zyro Wu couldn't help laughing again, not for anything else, just Dai Mubai's back, slender waist, hips, yellow hair. And twists and turns when walking. Whoever saw it thought she was a big girl. On this day, almost everyone in Shrek was immersed in the joy of the great improvement of soul power, martial soul evolution. Enning Rongrong, who is rich and powerful, directly invited them all to dinner at the most luxurious restaurant in Suichu City. It can't be regarded as everyone, except Dai Mubai, who stayed alone in the dormitory. Ma Hongjun didn't know that he was fighting in that fence, and Dean Flender went with Ma Hongjun. He will not leave until Ma Hongjun is safe. Except for the three of them, everyone else had a feast in the luxury hotel in Soto City, spending more than 200 gold soul coins. It was enough for a family of 3 to live for 52 years, but it was spent by Miss Enning just by treating guests to dinner with a wave of her hand. Chapter 73, isn't it? Playing so perverted. At night, everyone who returned to the college waved goodbye and prepared to go back to the dormitory to sleep. Zyro Wu drank some wine, but she couldn't walk after drinking 2 glasses, so Yin Hao still asked Yin Hao to carry her back. When he came to the door of the girls' dormitory, Yin Hao handed Zyro Wu, who was still sleeping, to Enning Rongrong, and said, "Rongrong, I won't go up. Please send Zyro Wu back to the dormitory." Enning Rongrong nodded, took Zyro Wu from Yin Hao's arms, and prepared to go back to the dormitory with Zhu Zhuqing. But after walking a few steps, he found that Zhu Zhuqing didn't seem to follow. Confused, Enning Rongrong had no choice but to look back. Where was Zhu Zhuqing's figure behind her? Enning Rongrong was a little surprised, but after all, there was a drunken Zyro Wu in her arms, so she had no choice but to suppress her doubts in her heart and carry Zyro Wu back to the dormitory. Yin Hao was walking back to his dormitory, the cool night breeze blowing on his body. The moonlight accompanied the stars shining on the ground, bringing a bit of light to the supposedly dark environment. Although it was not dazzling, it was enough to see the road clearly. Yin Hao. Hearing a crisp female voice coming from behind him, Yin Hao turned his head curiously. I saw Zhu Zhuqing standing upright behind him. Maybe it was because he had drunk some wine, but Zhu Zhuqing's cold face had a drunken red color at this time, which was particularly attractive. It's Zhuqing, what's the matter? Zhu Zhuqing did not answer Yin Hao's question, but walked towards him step by step with his doubtful eyes. Then he stopped less than 1 meter away from him. Although Yin Hao was puzzled, he didn't stop him and just watched her walking towards him quietly. After Zhu Zhuqing stopped, another voice came from her mouth. Yin Hao, can you tell me what is your relationship with Zyro Wu? This question made Yin Hao, who was already a little confused, even more confused. What's the relationship? Can't you see it after such a long time? Although puzzled, Yin Hao was still ready to tell the truth. Of course she and I are. Before he finished speaking, Zhu Zhuqing's eyes not far in front of him changed rapidly. The original black and white eyeballs were quickly replaced by red, and 3 black gaoyu also appeared in his eyes. Just for a moment, Yin Hao clearly felt that a spiritual force that did not belong to him was invading his mind. Although with Yin Hao's current strength, as long as he resisted for a moment, that force would definitely be defeated quickly, and it would even backfire. Its owner is Zhu Zhuqing. However, Yin Hao thought for a moment and chose to give up. He just used his mental power to protect his mind while pretending to be under control. Looking at Zhu Yuqing again, Zhu Yuqing's originally blushing face quickly turned pale. Considering the soul power gap between her and Yin Hao, she released all her soul power at once, even after performing the illusion. Even the Sharingan can no longer maintain.
Whoosh!
Zhu Yuqing panted heavily and looked at Yin Hao. His pale face also burst into a smile after seeing Yin Hao's dull eyes, but he had no intention of continuing to attack Yin Hao. This can't help but make Yin Hao even more curious. It has been such a long time since they met, and there is no hatred between the two. Moreover, the relationship between the two of them had been very good before, so why did she suddenly choose to take action against herself? With such doubts, Yin Hao continued to stand there with blank eyes, wanting to see what Zhu Yuqing was thinking. If you want to harm yourself. A cold light flashed in Yin Hao's eyes, so he would not be polite. After resting for a while, Zhu Yuqing seemed to have recovered a little, and a third of color appeared on his originally pale face. However, Zhu Yuqing had no intention of continuing to recover. After observing before and after, and making sure that no one was around, he hugged Yin Hao like a princess and ran towards the forest. As she skillfully walked around one big tree after another, a simple hut made of bamboo and trees, or to be precise, it could only be called a shed that could block the view, appeared in front of her. Seeing her familiarity, it seems that this is not the first time she has come here, but has been here many times, otherwise she would not be so proficient. Zhu Yuqing hugged Yin Hao and stepped into the shed. It was empty inside, with only a simple bed made of bamboo, but it was uneven and looked horrible. Zhu Yuqing seemed to have been prepared. She put Yin Hao down gently first, then took out a thick and soft large mattress from her storage soul guide and skillfully laid it on the bamboo bed. Noodle. After doing all this, Zhu Yuqing returned his gaze to Yin Hao. Then he walked forward slowly with a smile on his face, picked Yin Hao up again, and gently placed him on the already laid mattress. What's the situation? In his inner world, Yin Hao didn't know how to describe his mood at this time. Surprise, afraid, still a little excited. No matter what he was thinking, Zhu Yuqing had no idea at this time. In her eyes, Yin Hao had already been controlled by her with Sharingan, and he was just a little lamb waiting to be slaughtered. At this moment, Yin Hao, who was lying on the bed, clearly felt something pressing on his chest in front of him, and there was also the sound of heavy breathing at any time. Zhu Yuqing took 2 deep breaths in front of Yin Hao, raised his head and closed his eyes with enjoyment, with a faint smile hanging on the corner of his mouth. It still smells like this, it's really fascinating. Smell, what else could it taste like? Enhanced catnip taste. Zhu Yuqing didn't stop there. While lightly flicking the long blue hair on Yin Hao's face, gently brushing them to Yin Hao's ears, thus revealing his handsome face. Zhu Yuqing looked at Yin Hao's face, a little dazed for a moment, and seemed to be talking to himself. Do you know, every time I see Zyro Wu lying in your arms and holding your arms, I feel very uncomfortable. You are mine, and can only be mine, ha ha ha. As he spoke, a sickly smile appeared on that beautiful face. I go, what the hell? Although Yin Hao still looks calm on the surface, he has already stirred up a storm in his heart. He was just suspicious before, but now he is convinced. His previous words and actions have successfully led Zhu Yuqing astray. Zhu Yuqing gently unbuttoned Yin Hao's shirt and pressed his whole face to it obsessively, greedily absorbing the alluring smell emanating from Yin Hao's body with his nose. But this didn't seem to satisfy her completely. After taking 2 deep breaths again, she turned over and sat on Yin Hao's body, then slowly leaned over and kissed Yin Hao's neck and chest lightly. Chapter 74. Ma Hongjun molested Daimyu Bai. During this process, Yin Hao remained in a stupid state, as if he was being controlled by Zhu Yuqing. At this moment, Yin Hao began to slowly attack Zhu Yuqing's soul power that invaded his mind, as if he wanted to drive it out. Zhu Yuqing, who was still lying on Yin Hao, naturally felt it. He suddenly raised his head and looked at Yin Hao. According to the knowledge written in the booklet the teacher left for him before, this is a manifestation of getting out of his control, and it is also the self-defense function of the soul power in his body. After thinking about it for a while, Zhu Yuqing quickly got up, first tidied up his own clothes, and then tidied up the clothes of Yin Hao, who was exposing his upper body, then quickly picked up Yin Hao and returned along the original road. Then, just after reaching the side of the road, Zhu Yuqing lightly leaned Yin Hao against the tree. Just after Zhu Zhuqing finished everything, Yin Hao, who was controlled, woke up leisurely, looked around the environment, and then looked at Zhu Zhuqing squatting in front of him and said, "Wells, what's wrong with me?" Zhu Zhuqing said without blushing and without a beating heart. "I don't know either. We were having a good chat before, and you suddenly fainted and didn't wake up until now." Yin Hao was frozen for a moment. "How long have I slept?" "About half an hour." Zhu Zhuqing continued to respond. Then Yin Hao smiled and waved his hands. "It's okay, I probably drank too much, and the energy suddenly came back, and I couldn't resist it." Zhu Zhuqing said with a concerned look. "Are you all right? How about I accompany you to the city to find a doctor?" "Should I go to a hospital or a hotel in the city?" Yin Hao muttered this in his heart, but remained calm on the surface and continued to speak with a smile. "I'm really fine, just go back and sleep." After a 10-minute scene with Zhu Zhuqing, he was escorted by her back to the dormitory. Zhu Zhuqing also turned around and left after Yin Hao returned to the dormitory. As the door of the room was closed, Zhu Zhuqing's figure also disappeared into the room. Yin Hao, who was still lying on the bed and covering his head, sat up directly, looked in the direction Zhu Zhuqing left, and sighed softly. Pulling off his shirt, there were obviously a few red marks on his body, which was originally as white as jade, on his neck and chest, probably a dozen or so deep and shallow. "What is this called? But it seems pretty good, and I won't suffer any loss anyway." Withdrawing his thoughts, Yin Hao also began to sit cross-legged on the bed and began to practice. The reason for absorbing the fairy grass a while ago was that his cultivation base had risen too fast, and he had risen to 10 levels in just 2 days, so Yin Hao did not plan to merge from Yu Zairogang. Tang San absorbed the soul power. For the time being, he still focused on consolidating his cultivation. There was still no class the next day. Maybe it was because everyone had just absorbed the celestial grass and needed to consolidate their cultivation, or it could be other reasons. But since there was no class, Yin Hao took Zyro Wu to Suoto City to play for a day, and he didn't see Zhu Zhuqing, who hadn't seen him all day, until he came back in the evening. Yin Hao greeted her naturally, but Zhu Zhuqing only responded briefly and left in a hurry. However, Ma Hongjun, who was taken away by Flanders to vent his anger, never came back. It wasn't until noon on the 3rd day that Flanders took Ma Hongjun back to Shrek. Flanders' mood was a little complicated at this time. Since Ma Hongjun ate the fairy grass, his cultivation level has directly reached level, but it seems that the evil fire in his body has become stronger because of the fairy grass. Especially in the past few days after eating grass jelly, for 2 days in a row, it doesn't even stop. Regardless of whether they have money or not, they directly killed all the female staff, including the madam at Gulan. Even the first few foamed at the mouth and passed out, and because of what happened in the past 2 days, Ma Hongjun single-handedly caused the entire Lichenju to close down. Flender shook his head, forcibly interrupted his train of thought. "Let's take one step at a time. At least it's a good thing that Hongjun's soul power has improved greatly." After returning to Shrek, the first thing Flender did was to ring the bell on the playground. In less than half an hour, everyone in Shrek, including Yin Hao, came to the playground. When everyone arrived, Flanders glanced around, feeling the increasing soul power of everyone, and nodded with satisfaction. "I have to say that this kid Yin Hao is really good. If he has any good things, he can immediately think of this group of classmates in the academy. Otherwise, these kids wouldn't be able to grow in soul power so fast." When he saw Dai Mubai at the far side, Flanders, who had been smiling and nodding just now, was stunned. He glanced at Dai Mubai with a frown, then glanced at the others, and then pointed at Dai Mubai with some dissatisfaction. "What's going on? Where is Dai Mubai? Who is she? Did that bastard bring his girlfriend to the academy? Didn't I tell you not to?" "Harter." Hearing Flender's words, Zyro Wu, Enning Rongrong, and Oscar laughed out loud, and even Zhu Zhuqing, who usually had a cold face, showed a smile. Ma Hongjun, who also didn't know what was going on, looked at the laughing crowd in puzzlement, and then spoke. "What are you guys laughing at?" The dean's questioning. "Where did Boss Dai go? Seeing that you are wearing Boss Dai's clothes, you can't be Boss Dai's girlfriend, right? Could it be that Boss Dai is going to have fun by himself and then let his girlfriend come? Did you teach yourself?" Hearing Ma Hongjun's words, everyone laughed even more happily, while Dai Mubai, who was standing at the edge, turned darker and darker. Ma Hongjun didn't know it yet. While showing a wretched smile on his face, he looked Dai Mubai up and down. If you don't say that Boss Dai is discerning, look at him. He's convex and has good looks. I'm not telling you, beauty, why are you so reluctant to follow Boss Dai? Although he is handsome, he is a playboy after all. Look at me, Phoenix martial spirit. I'm not bad at strength either, or you think about my brother. While saying this, Ma Hongjun stretched out his hand towards Dai Mubai, as if he wanted to wrap his arms around his waist. After more than 2 days of metamorphosis, Dai Mubai at this time can indeed be regarded as a beauty. As Ma Hongjun said, he has convex and curvy facial features and soft features, especially his height of 1.7 meters, which also gives him a pair of long legs. If he wears black stockings, he will charm many men. But it's a pity that the physical changes didn't affect Dai Mubai's heart, and his complexion became darker and darker as he heard Ma Hongjun's words. After seeing Ma Hongjun's outstretched hand, he exploded and kicked Ma Hongjun on his round belly. The force was so strong that he flew several meters away. Chapter 75, Dai Mubai's Great Beauty. Apparently Ma Hongjun didn't expect that the big beauty in front of him would fight with him, and he was kicked away in an instant, without missing a single move. Ma Hongjun was a little angry. Just when he was about to step forward to teach this beauty, who did not know how to live or die, he was stopped by Flanders. In desperation, he could only stand aside quietly and watch Flanders walk towards Dai Mubai's girlfriend. I saw Flender walking in front of Dai Mubai and speaking seriously. I don't care if you are Dai Mubai's girlfriend or not, I just hope you tell him that the academy has its rules, even he can't trample on them at will. At this time, Dai Mubai couldn't bear it anymore. Headmaster, I'm Mubai, Dai Mubai. As soon as I opened my mouth, it was no longer the male-female voice when I had just eaten the strange antler bamboo fake 2 days ago, nor the strong male voice in the past, but a clear and melodious female voice. Hearing this, Flanders was stunned for a moment, and then 4 big words appeared on his face. Are you kidding me? But before he could speak again, Enning Rongrong and the others who were watching the excitement hurried forward. Dane, he is really Dai Mubai. Oscar also spoke. Yes, he is really Boss Dai. You just don't know if you haven't answered in the past 2 days. Yin Hao also stepped forward and said apologetically. It's all because I didn't find out the function of the fairy grass. I didn't expect it to increase Mubai's soul power and at the same time, have other functions. While speaking, Yin Hao looked at Dai Mubai with complicated eyes. In their very eyes, the two of them expressed distress, apology and self-blame. They seemed to be very sad about Dai Mubai's situation at this time. Their acting skills were so unrestrained. It won't be a problem to get a Best Actor award from Blue Star. Dai Mubai was also stunned for a moment. Did he blame Yin Hao at all? That's impossible, but he is kind after all, and he can share this kind of treasure created by heaven and earth with him. Based on this, I can't blame him. Besides, he just took out the celestial grass, and he himself said that he didn't have a special understanding of the functions of these celestial grasses. He just knew them. As for the task of distributing the fairy grass, Tang San took over it himself, so, if you want to blame, you can only blame Tang San. Thinking of this, Dai Mubai glanced at Tang San with resentment. How sensitive is Tang San? I noticed it at the time, but I didn't show any abnormality, as if I didn't notice anything. Dai Mubai looked away, then put his hand on Yin Hao's shoulder, pretending to be relaxed. It's okay, it's not your fault. It's all because of some people who don't know how to pretend to understand. That's why it's like this. Besides, maybe it's just temporary. Maybe it's just temporary, would have been believed by everyone 2 days ago, but now. 2 days passed, and not only did he not change back, but he became more and more serious, and even now his appearance is no different from that of a woman. Tang San, who was standing nearby, also heard Dai Mubai's words clearly. After hearing the words, some people don't know how to pretend to understand, a fierce light flashed in his eyes, but he covered it up well. It's over. After hearing so much, Flanders and Ma Hongjun, who had been away from Shrek for more than 2 days, also understood what was going on. The two looked at each other, and the younger Ma Hongjun couldn't help but burst out laughing. Hahata, are you Boss Dai? Hahata, I'm laughing so hard, you now. You really look like a woman now, Hahata. Accompanied by Ma Hongjun's unbridled laughter, Dai Mubai's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He didn't reply. He attached his soul power to his hand and prepared to give Ma Hongjun some color, When Ma Hongjun saw that Dai Mubai was angry, he hurriedly hid behind Flanders. He knew Dai Mubai's strength and he was definitely no match for him, so it was better to hide first. Flanders also looked at Ma Hongjun helplessly, but still helped him stop Dai Mubai. Okay Mubai, stop making trouble. Now that everyone is here, let's talk about what happened today. Seeing that the dean had spoken, Dai Mubai could only glare at Ma Hongjun and then return to the team. Ma Hongjun also hurriedly stood on the other side of the team, keeping a distance from Dai Mubai, but his eyes were glancing in Dai Mubai's direction from time to time, or to be precise, at the protruding areas in front and back of him. Flender straightened his expression, glanced back and forth among the people lined up in a row, and then spoke. After Hongjun ate the fairy grass Xirohao brought back 2 days ago, he broke through to level. Let's go get a soul ring for him today. Before he finished speaking, Dai Mubai and the others spoke one after another. Dean, I'm level. I'm level. I'm level. Even Tang San also spoke up. Flender's smile became more prosperous, and he nodded and said, Okay, call all the teachers, and let's get the soul ring. After a midday preparation, 6 teachers including Flanders, Yu Xirogang, Zhao Wuji, and 8 students including Yin Hao headed to the Star Forest. In order to facilitate the search for the soul beast, Flanders, the Dane, personally flew into the air to search for it. They were very lucky. It didn't take long for them to find a heavenly soul horse that was more than 100 years old. After Yu Xirogang confirmed that the function and age were suitable for Enning Rongrong, Flender decisively took it down. And Enning Rongrong also became the first among several people to find a soul ring that suits him. The third soul skill is the same as in the original work, which is 3 days, soul, to increase everyone's soul power. The soul power has also been raised to 34 class. Not long after Enning Rongrong absorbed the spirit ring, a blind fire bird attacked the crowd and was captured by Flender on the spot. After taking a closer look, he discovered that it was a soul beast that had just entered the millennium. After Yu Xirogang confirmed that it was suitable for Ma Hongjun directly killed it with a last strike. Outside the Stardew Great Forest, seeing Ma Hongjun not far away who was still absorbing the spirit ring, Flender couldn't help feeling a little anxious. Xirogang, didn't you say that the soul beast is very suitable for Hongjun? Why has Hongjun absorbed it for almost 2 hours now, and hasn't finished it yet? I didn't absorb it for so long when I obtained the 7th soul ring. Yu Xirogang was also a little puzzled, and carefully looked at the body of the fire bird that had been dead for a long time. There were 10 fire marks on the back. It was indeed a soul beast that had just entered the millennium. How could it take so long to absorb it? But he was puzzled and puzzled. He couldn't lose his master style, so he pretended to be relaxed and said, Why are you in a hurry? Doesn't the longer it takes Hongjun to absorb it mean that it is more difficult to absorb this soul ring, which also means that the quality of the soul ring is higher? Flanders wanted to say something more, but seeing Yu Xirogang's everything is under control, look, he swallowed the words that came to his lips out of trust in him. That's it for today's chapter. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, and subscribe to Infinite Novel Audio. For more stories, check out my other channel AI Otaku Studio, and I'll see you in the next chapter.